All right, so it is 5 o'clock, and I will call the Village Board's second budget meeting to order. It is Monday, October 14th. Could we have a roll call, please?
Bollig,
Here.
Glish,
Here.
Horton,
Here.
Carpenter,
Here.
Jacobson,
Here.
and Peterson.
Here. All right. Our third agenda item is community input. So this part of the agenda allows members of the public to provide information to the village board on items that are not on our agenda. Just let you know, under the open meetings law, so we can get information and we can ask questions of the presenter to facilitate a better understanding of the information, but we can't take any action. So who would like to come forward for some public comment? Yes, please come up. Welcome. If you just want to tell us your name and your address, please.
Okay. First of all, thank you for letting me come up and speak. My name is Cindy Matuli, and I live at 567 Farwell Drive here in Oregon. I've been a resident of Oregon for about 16 years. I would like to speak to the board tonight about some things that have been happening Thursday and Friday. I'm sure you have seen the news article that was done about crossing guard and a student that was almost hit on Perry and Janesville, and also on Perry and South Burr Oak Street. Thursday, I had a front row seat to the incident at Perry and Janesville. Unfortunately, the elderly woman that was driving, I don't know what was going on with her, but she did not stop. The crossing guard did activate the amber lights and walked out with the stop sign. Everybody else stopped in the road, but he noticed that this car was not stopping at all. He put himself in front of that car, waving, the stop sign, everything, to try and get her to stop. He jumped out of the way at the last minute before he was hit by the car. And probably about a second or two after that, she must have realized, because she saw the young man in front of her crossing the street, that the pavement was wet, it was raining that day, and she slid more than halfway through the intersection and stopped within inches from hitting the young man. I was stuck on Perry Street, so I wasn't able to get her license plate number or anything. But the next morning, on our community page on Facebook, his mother asked if anybody had witnessed what had happened to her child. I was kind of hesitant to say what had happened, because I'm sure he was very shook up and stuff. But I did tell her exactly what I had seen, and her comment to me was that it made her heart hurt, because it was exactly what her son had said. And she was hoping that he was exaggerating, that, he was so shooken up that there's no way that what he said actually did happen. I know that there was some back and forth with other community members about why isn't the village taking action with this intersection. Some issues of whether it's a county-controlled intersection or it is a village-controlled intersection. Just looking at some maps of the county highways and also looking at the village's comprehensive plan, it appears to me that from Wolf Street to Highway 14 is village intersections. And I know people were asking, and I'm asking as well, why Park Street in Janesville is a village jurisdiction, is having precedence over a county intersection as Park in Janesville or South Perry in Janesville. I understand that you guys work with the county on, providing lights for the intersection or anything like that, but there needs to be something that is done before we really do have a tragedy. A couple of years ago, there was a young girl who was hit in that intersection, and because of that, flags were put out, the street was marked with hash marks, and the amber sign, or the amber lights were installed. It shouldn't take a student, anybody in our community, any visitor to our community, to get seriously injured or worst case scenario, killed because of, unfortunately, the traffic that people are not slowing down these days, not just here in Oregon, but, I mean, it's all over the place. Being a resident of Oregon, it does concern me. You know, I live on Farwell off of Netherwood, and I see it every morning when I go to work. People don't want to stop for the buses. You know, there's one block stretch from Oak Street to Soden Drive that you can park on both sides of the street, and the buses can't get through. I was actually almost hit head-on by a squad car because he crossed the center line to pass a vehicle that was parked on the side of the road. Had I not been paying attention to it and watching that he wasn't slowing down, he would have hit me head-on. So, I mean, that is another thing, but my concern is the intersection at Janesville and Perry. The only reason that I was there was I was dropping off a friend's child who lives right there. And for the 3 years that she was in middle school, she had to cross that very intersection. And it was a weekly ordeal that she was almost hit by cars. Our students should not have to have that type of stress put on them. And, you know, wondering, am I going to get hit by a car crossing the road, going to school or from school on any given day? If at anything that can be done without the plan for the county of when they choose to install traffic lights, is the very least of, is there a way to put a stop sign on Janesville Street? I know that, you know, you cannot take action with what I'm bringing forward today, but as a group, is there something that can be done? You know, Friday morning, I found out Friday night that another crossing guard just up the road was almost hit Friday morning. So in a matter of 16 hours, 3 people were almost hit by vehicles who, you know, don't want to slow down, are impatient, are in a hurry, you know, whatever it is. But if there's anything that we can do to try and get traffic to slow down on Janesville Street, it would be great. I know in the comprehensive plan for the transportation map that was in the plan, Perry, Oak Street, with crossing over Janesville, were listed as additional right-of-way required at the intersection. The other intersection that we don't have a light on that is in the plan was at Lincoln and Main Street. They are all streets that we have children that cross morning and night. I don't have any children, but I do have friends that have children in the village, and I would hate to see any one of them or anybody, whether it is a child, whether it's an adult, you know, somebody who's here visiting our village, to get hurt crossing any of those intersections because people just don't want to stop.
Well, thank you so much for your comments. Board members, any questions? Otherwise, I might ask Jeff. What's the plan for the intersection, Jeff?
Well, actually,
Oh, excuse me.
I believe we have it on for next week's meeting as a discussion item. Where I would invite you to come back next Monday night where it'll actually be on the agenda and we'll talk a little bit about our plans going forward. And I am in contact with Dane County Highway District about that type of thing. And I sat out there as well on Friday, so it's definitely on our radar
Yes.
and we're looking at it. It scares me as well. So.
And if I can add, I appreciate that you were out there Friday. I had one of the community members share what they had discussed with you and stuff.
Yeah.
And I appreciate the fact that you did go out there Friday.
Yeah.
And at least observe, you know, what is going on. Granted, it probably wasn't as busy, but
I witnessed a near accident as well. Not with a pedestrian, but a near accident. Yep.
yeah, and we have enough of those too with cars and stuff, so. But
But
I will be more than happy to come next Monday. I
yeah,
just
would
wanted,
suggest, yeah.
I know that tonight was a budget meeting, and I just wanted to at least get it out there, since it is kind of still fresh, since it happened on Thursday and Friday, so.
Thank you. Yeah, Corey.
Thank you for coming, first of all, and we all share your concern. You know, when we're talking about traffic signals or stop signs or, you know, looking into all that takes a lot of time. You know, to me, if you have a crossing guard waving a stop sign and they still go through, you have an enforcement issue. One of the quick things I think we could do is request that our police do some additional enforcement.
They have been.
Um,
The only thing I want to say, per the agenda, we should be careful how much we talk about tonight.
Yep.
Just, so,
So if that's already going on,
Yep.
that's great.
Yep. I talked to
You
the
know,
chief last
we'll
week.
talk about it at subsequent
Yep.
meetings and come up with a
Yep.
plan.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right, but thank you for coming forward.
Thank you very much,
for your-
and
Yeah, for your passion.
I hope
Cindy.
the other people can make it next week, Monday. I know people
Absolutely.
couldn't make it today because of work schedules and stuff, so.
Well, we have
but-
your comments in the record, so they, yeah,
Yep.
we'll keep those in mind next week, too.
Yep, no problem.
Yes,
But
thank you so
Thank you all
much.
for hearing my concerns about it.
Thank you.
Have a good night.
Thank you. Is there anyone else that would like to come forward? Anything that's not on the agenda? All right, then we will move forward to the joint meeting with the library board. Would the library board like to have a call to order, please?
Could we have a roll call?
All right. Bustler? Glish?
Here?
Goblin? Here. Nelson? Here. Santuli Shuda? Severson?
Here.
And Stata? Here.
I know, I'm not doing great, but thanks. You may have to take over. Thanks, Jerry. All right, well, I'll go to my voice gives out, and then Jerry may have to take over. So welcome, library board. Jerry's getting his glasses, so now he's gonna come. All right, so we have, the first item is an update regarding the new library building. So we have 3 items that are here. We have the December 16th, 2019 joint meeting to discuss the possible hiring of a construction manager with attorney Laura Callan. We have a capital campaign progress report of September 2019. And then we have a June 2020 tentative date for a joint meeting to discuss the status of the fundraising efforts. So I'll let the library board decide how they want to, or Jennifer, maybe you want to address these in order or whatever you want to do.
Sure, we'll go in order if that's okay. Mike had asked if we could postpone the joint meeting to discuss construction management just because you had a full schedule at the budget meeting. And so he discussed December being a good time, and that will still be in plenty of time for us to contemplate that carefully before we rehire architectural services. But he just wanted to make sure that you knew that was the plan, and that we hadn't forgotten about it. Does anybody have any comments or questions on that? Do you want me to go on to the next one?
Sure.
So the monthly capital campaign progress reports in your packet as you requested. Just a reminder, we're in the quiet phase of our campaign now. The public phase is set to start in February, when you'll see a lot of visible community outreach for the fundraising efforts. We're doing a lot of behind the scenes things, meeting with a lot of community leaders, having a lot of informational sessions, and just sharing people a lot of information about the project and the campaign efforts. And then the third item, Mike had, per the MOU, we're doing step 4 right now, which is fundraising. The step 5 of the MOU is to set the final project budget. So because the campaign is scheduled to go through June of 2020, Mike and I discussed tentatively having, with your permission, a joint meeting again in June to kind of revisit where we're at that point, to determine how to proceed at that juncture.
Yeah, that sounds like a good idea. Any comments from board members? All right, excellent. Then I'll move on to library budgets.
Okay.
Okay.
This is almost exactly what you saw at the joint meeting in August. The only change that I'm aware of is Lisa updated the health insurance lines because the actual rates are available now. I will just go through and highlight just a couple quick things to remind you as you're thinking about this. On page 27, that's the library fund. That's the special fund, so that's not tax, not the general property tax fund, but it's funded from donations and impact fees are the primary sources of income in those funds. The library impact fee amount is going up for next year. You increased the rate for that earlier this year. Also, at the bottom, you'll see the capital equipment line. That's spending, budgeting for next year's spending of some funds that were borrowed in 2017 from the previous director when she was here. The buildings line, we have an amount budgeted as a placeholder based on the impact fees that were collected when we started the budget process, and that's just to re-engage architectural services The impact fees would allow us to do that before you do the bonding process for the library project. So any available impact fees could be spent with the board approval on additional architectural services to move the project forward between when you approve that and when the borrowing takes place. Page 28, there's not too much, but I'll just note, 28 and 29, there's really not much. But if anybody has any questions on that, I'm happy to answer them. Also, then page 30 through 32 are the operating and building budgets, which are funded through general property taxes in addition to some other revenue sources. A couple revenue comments. The county grants, we are going to see a decrease in funding from Dane County in 2020. So just want to point that out. That's a slight decrease in revenue for that line item. The library fines, we're also anticipating a slight decrease in revenue. A lot of area libraries are going fine-free, and so some of our revenue comes from funds collected by patrons that use our library but also use other libraries. So Fitchburg, for example, has gone fine-free, so there's no revenue source that reduces our revenue coming from people that use more than one library. For expenditures, most of our increases in appropriations are due to personnel. And so anytime you add staff, it impacts all the benefits and all the staffing. There's two main focuses the library board has. Prior to my starting, there was a step plan in place for adding additional library staff gradually over a period of 5 years to prepare the library for opening at an appropriate level without having an impact in any one particular fiscal year. And so this continues that stepped effort with a plan to add an 18-hour reference assistant position. So there's minimal benefits costs for that position. And then in addition, it is the first of a planned 3-year wage adjustment for library staff. And again, that we talked about that at the August meeting, but I'm happy to answer any questions you have on that. On page 31, I do want to point out there's a couple accounts where we did try to evaluate and see if we could have some cost savings in budgeting. So there's a couple lines where we cut the budgeted amount to kind of offset some of the other decreases in revenue that we had. Looking at historical data, we thought that those accounts could safely be budgeted a little differently and still leave us in a good position to be able to fund what we needed to fund. So like the subscription account, for example, is a good example of that. Another account I'll just highlight that we are increasing is mileage and travel. We still have funds in our training budget, but we don't have any money in mileage to be able to pay for people to attend those trainings. So that's one need moving forward that we did ask to increase. I don't have anything else I want to highlight, so if anybody has any questions, I'm happy to answer those. But again, essentially, this is what we saw at the August 18th joint meeting as well.
All right, yeah, Jerry.
Yes, thanks for the update, Jennifer. I have a question on the item you led off with, and that was it's listed as possible hiring of a construction manager.
Oh, sure.
So that's not a solid thing yet?
So again, we haven't taken any action on that until we have that project budgeted determined. And the MOU didn't clarify where in the process that would need to take place.
Okay.
But we're not going to re-engage. We can't re-engage architectural services until we determine the budget between both boards together. Mm-hmm. We had tentatively planned to talk about that at this meeting, but Mike asked to delay the conversation a little bit longer due to the budget schedule.
Delaying is not the problem.
Yep.
My concern is that there is a possibility we may not have a construction manager, the way this is listed.
It just hasn't been voted on. I think that's just the way that Mike worded it. It just hasn't been officially, no official action has been taken on it at this point.
But is it a priority for you and the board to have a construction manager?
They like I said, they haven't voted on it officially, so I can't say, but maybe some of them want to speak to that.
That's okay. I'm good.
Yeah,
I understand what you're saying.
Yeah,
okay.
I mean, I met with a gentleman who did the construction management for Wanakee, for the Wanakee Public Library about 2 weeks ago. So we're gathering information. Mike has some information from Attorney Callan that he'll be sharing at the December joint meeting. Okay. So we'll hope to, if we move forward with that, we still have ample time to move forward with that before we re-engage architectural services. So
Go ahead, Mike.
So Jerry, we're gonna present the benefits and the cost of doing it so that both boards know if we're gonna do it, just what it's gonna cost and what you get from doing it.
I just have the memory of.
I agree. Yep.
Okay.
I agree.
what happens when you don't have
I
a
understand.
construction.
Yep.
So,
The other thing is the way they charge, the fee structure might be based on the whole scale of the project. So having a little more information about the actual final project budget might be useful when we proceed with proposals from them.
maybe Jeff will volunteer to do it.
No.
That was awful quick. I expected it.
Yes, it was a good answer.
You got enough to do.
Other questions for Jennifer? Yeah, go ahead.
You had mentioned that the revenue from Dane County had gone down. Can you speak just a little bit of why? Or what's happening
That's
there?
very complicated. So I had an hour meeting trying to have them explain to me how the funding formula works, and it's literally a whole page of numbers, and they're all averaged over 3 years. And I actually am serving on a committee with them that meets in 2 weeks to revisit the funding formula and how it's determined. It's affected by other libraries and how much they're used. It's affected by the square footage. There's 2 pieces. One's operating and one's building, and one of them is affected by the total square footage of libraries in Dane County. It's affected by their building rental reimbursement rate that they use for other facilities. I have a handout I'm happy to share with you, but honestly, like it's very complicated. But it's based on circulation. It's based on our operating budget. It's based on the average of all those over a 3-year period. So there's a lot of factors. But I can give Mike the handout if that's helpful.
Thank you.
Sorry. Sherry, could you read these? Could
I'm
you
going to take over.
I can't.
Yeah, go right ahead. Okay, we'll move on now to see, are we on item C now?
That's just the Wackman Trust Fund.
Oh,
Okay,
that I
That's
should
the
speak
last
to that. That in the packet in your budget, that one didn't include a number. So Mike noted in the agenda that the amount we're budgeting for 2020 is $73. That's
Okay.
just the interest that there's a separate a fund that we have that was a result of an estate plan, and that we're required to keep that that principal and then use the interest for other purposes. And so we can't use that principal, but the interest we're expecting in 2020 is $73 based on what we got this year and last year.
very good. If you have nothing further to add, Jennifer, I'll move on to the adjournment of the library board. Is that where we're at?
No, D, go to D. 8D.
8D.
Yep. So the
Oh,
board-
possible consideration of library budget items 8A through C by the village board. So I guess I'm looking for a motion here too.
Jerry, I'll move approval.
Thank
I'll
you.
second.
Got a motion and a second. Any further discussion on this item? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Thanks, Jennifer.
Thank you.
Do we need to adjourn the library board then? Can I have a motion to adjourn the library board?
I make a motion. Seconded.
All in favor?
Aye. Awesome. Thank you.
Thanks, library board.
Thank you.
Next up, we have the joint meeting with cable TV. Oh, yeah, whatever you need to do. Anytime you're ready.
I'm ready.
Hi.
They're
I'm-
done.
Hi. I'm Tom Kirchdorfer. I'm the president of the Oregon Community Foundation, and in that role, I also serve as the chair of the Village of Oregon's Cable TV Committee. I do not believe that we have a quorum here, so we're not going to be starting a meeting for that. With me is Paul Wicker. Paul is our executive director of the Cable Access Station, and we have a couple of documents in your packet that I'll speak to. The first one I'd like to talk about is the 2019 program report for the proposed budget. I'm not going to go through it line by line or any of that element, but I would give you it as some background of what we do and how we do it and so forth. The OCA Media, which is we're commonly referred to, has provided a lot of quality and improving quality for the Oregon community in the last year. A couple things that we've done in this last year. One of the things, we've upped our channels. You helped us fund the TDS linkage, and we now are broadcasting on channel 19 and Channel 20 on TDS, as well as 98.3 and 983 and 984 on Charter. We've also greatly expanded our YouTube broadcasting, which we do through our OSA Media webpage. Just as an interesting statistic that we pulled up just before we came over to the meeting, we looked at the last year, your October 7th, I think, or no, it was October 8th village budget meeting had 10 views.
Since that time.
Since that time. So in 1 year, you've had 10 views of last year's budget meeting. Last week's board meeting had 297 views. So people are paying attention, people are becoming more aware of what's going on. I hear a lot more discussion about the cable access station and our community access information that we're providing. We're very active in the social media environment, and we're broadcasting on a regular basis. We're thinking we've made a great strides, we think, in the quality and the services we're providing. We're doing lots more live programming. We're streaming live parades, live village board meetings has been going on for a long time, but our consistency has gotten better, and we're providing a lot of services in those ways. And I'll leave the rest of that document to your own reading at another time, unless you have any questions in relationship to it.
Actually, I do have a question.
Sure.
If that would be okay. And I'll make a comment too. I think last week's meeting was I think it was the park budget. So there were a lot of people here. So I assume there are a lot of people tuning in because they were likewise interested in the outcome of that meeting. So, but it's good information. Thank you. On DVD sales, do you think you realize the 3,800 this year? Because
Yes.
I see you've reduced your number for next year.
No, we've increased our
Increased it.
DVD sales for next year. It goes from 3,000 to 3,800.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're pretty confident about that. What's happened is the primary source of that is from school programs. And what's happening is at the start of the program, the directors or whoever's facilitating the particular school event is telling the parents to you can put away your video cameras, you don't have to watch it, you'll be able to purchase it, and we're seeing a substantial jump in those DVD sales.
Very good, thank you. How much of your programming consists of school events, would you say?
Probably 70%,
70%,
75%.
okay. All right, that's just a question I had.
Yeah, and then that's just because there's so much, you have so much quantity in sports and concerts and so forth. It isn't that, we're always looking for programs to broadcast and as many as we can.
That's why your offices are over there now.
Well, and actually it helps us a lot in moving equipment, getting equipment to the right places. It's also been a big advantage for us in that it's made a reconnection with the high school, who has been a major source of camera operators and people who are actually able to facilitate the actual recording of events. So it's been really a win-win situation for us all the way around.
All right, thank you. Paul, you got anything you want to add on this?
No, the fact that we are in high school has made life quite a bit easier. And it's the reason we're able to cover 275 events that we did the past year. We couldn't do it with volunteer staff. We do it with trained and paid high school students. I have about 4 or 5 new ones who are interested in learning. I have some exceptional students who are leaving us, and luckily a few of those have gone on to continue their studies in television production.
Okay.
And I'm happy to see that.
Very good. Thanks for this OCA funding proposal.
Okay.
It's nice to see a line item document like this.
Okay.
Anybody on the board have a question about this document? Okay. If there are no questions, then we'll move on to the pages 33 and 34. Any direct questions on this while the gentlemen are still here? Okay.
Are we moving on to this?
Yeah, I was just seeing if the village board had any questions on the other items.
Misunderstood.
Amanda?
Do you think it resolved for the franchise fees yet? We still don't know what the situation is.
franchise fees for the actual cable services being reduced, but that's being made up in a formula by the state. So the
Okay.
state is
Oh,
going to
that's
continue
right.
some of the funding
Okay.
and so forth.
Okay. Any other questions? I assume item B that there is no cable TV here. You don't have a quorum of TV committee, right?
Correct. There is
Okay,
no.
so we'll move on to item C, which is consideration of items 13 by the village board. So I'd look for a motion on that.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
And any discussion on that item? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries, so, thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Jerry, can I just say, I have been so impressed. We've been around a lot of parents that are involved with kids in football, soccer, all these other, events and everything like that, and how impressed the quality is nowadays. I mean, it is unbelievable. Parents going home watching the game with their kids after the football game, emailing my folks to say, hey, watch this. I was out on vacation and I got a link and I was able to watch my daughter's, game and everything like that. I was just amazed at the quality of what you're producing, and so.
We've actually had people who are in China and were able to watch their daughter play soccer.
It
So
is,
it was-
you guys are doing a great, personally, I'm just gonna say you're doing a great job, I think. So.
Thank you, Jeff.
We're
Appreciate
trying,
that.
and a lot of it has to do with the equipment we were able to procure through funds from the village. Couldn't do it with the old equipment, and I'm adding on and continuing to increase the quality as best we can with our budget.
Very good.
Good.
Okay.
Any further questions for these gentlemen before they leave? Okay, hearing none. Thank you,
Okay.
gentlemen.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We'll move on to item 14. We don't have to adjourn because there's no committee quorum. Item 15 is the continuing 2020 budget overview. All right, who wants to take this?
So before we go into details, are there any follow-up questions from last Monday's meeting? Any just general questions the board has? Of Lisa? On me? No, okay. That was easy. So, we had mentioned during the overview that we were gonna try to talk about, the state mandated property tax cap, and at this point, we are about $50,000 under the cap. And, what, again, is what we talked about regarding this during the last Monday's meeting, is that we need to try to, if we're gonna add staff in the future, we need to be able to have enough cap space the year that we're gonna do that. And so you almost have to plan a couple of years in advance if you're gonna add staff to, because you're adding significant expenses to the budget. And so we have a little note here. We're saying that at this point, we anticipate only funding with the board's approval, of course. The library staffing step plan in '21, this will allow us to build more cap space to hire the potential of park and rec director in '22. And so, I know we're sitting here talking about the 2020 budget, but we're already thinking of '21, that at this point, we'll try to hold down other personnel adjustments to only the library in '21, so that we create space under the cap, so in '22, we can hire a full-time park and rec director position. Does that make sense? Okay.
Yeah, and again, the expenditure restraint program is just a program where you control, your expenses.
That's different. This is
No.
just strictly the property tax cap. We can only raise taxes up to a certain level, and we gotta stay under that cap. So expenditure restraint's actually the next item on the agenda.
Okay,
Yep. So this is strictly just, we can't, Lisa does a formula on the sheet that gets submitted to the DOR, and we cannot raise taxes over this amount. And most communities are actually bumping up almost every year. We've been fortunate not to do that. So,
anyone have a question about the property tax cap program? Okay, thanks, Mike.
okay. Then expenditure restraint, I think Corey asked this last week, and so we put something that came from the league. We still have not gotten the official CPI number, right, Lisa, from the state? Yeah, but basically, it's the cost of living plus our net new construction And that, you combine that it gives you the percentage of what you can increase your expenses on for the next budget. And because we're adding all the staff and personnel, or doing personnel adjustments in 2020, we are not gonna qualify, but we'll talk about this at the next item here, or 2 items down, that we're trying to position the 21 budget, in addition to getting it under the cap even more. We're trying to position that to actually qualify so that the village then gets that expenditure restraint payment in 2022, which is about $30,000 to $40,000 of state money.
Anyone have any questions about that? You all understand?
So then, Lisa and I tried to provide a list of the changes since the last budget meeting, and right now, the current increase on an average house is about $91. We did get the final assessed value, which decreased by $365,000. We did increase the general legal by $10,000. We saw that it keeps trending up, so we thought we should add that to try to have a better budget number. We found a little bit of a wage calculation error, so we had a potential reclassification of a front office position in 2020, so that added about $5,000. And then we added the money for the restrooms in the Highlands of Netherwood Park. And then one of the things that Lisa and I did was in debt service, we decreased the use of fire impact fees by $20,000 next year, and use what's called the continuing appropriations in the general debt service, the TID 4 debt service, and the TID 5 debt service. And that allowed us to be applying less levy in there versus using that money. And what that is when you borrow money, depending on what happens, you end up getting, basically it's called capitalizing your interest for a couple of years, and that's what we're doing. So with all that, the average house is going up, it would go up $91. And then as we promised, we were going to talk about the anticipated transportation aid, the higher amount that we're getting, about $66,000. And we just came up with these 3 options. The board may have other options you may want to use to how to use the money. The first option is you could just apply the $66,800 to the levy and reduce the increase of average house to about $74, option 1. Option 2, which is what Lisa and I are proposing we think about doing, is using 20 of that to reduce the levy, but then potentially transfer out to Fund 405, the balance, which is street improvements. But we would only propose doing that once the 2019 audit is completed, because we have so many unknowns that are happening and hitting the budget in 19, that this could be one of those rare years where we actually end up using fund balance to balance the budget. And then, so what we would want to do is in 2020, keep that money in the general fund so that when 2020 is over with, that money flows back into the fund balance and gets it back up to 30%, if that makes sense. And then the third option is you just increase the contingency by that amount, and you just leave the increase at about $91 in an average house. And all these actually help, 2 and 3 help to, going back to Jerry's comment about expenditure restraint, because you're increasing the expenses, is giving us more of a gap going into the next, into the 21 budget.
Anyone have any questions or comments regarding anything Mike just said, or options?
Or all of it, maybe.
Huh?
Maybe it's all confusing.
Or any questions regarding options 1, 2, and 3? Go ahead. Jenny.
I don't know if this relates to options 1, 2, and 3, but thinking about this $66,000 and thinking about what Cindy said during the community input, is there any way, or is there any options that we can use that money to help make that intersection a little safer, or is that all more larger? I know we've talked, generally speaking, about more larger structural changes to that intersection, so I don't know that 66 would really do anything, but I just want to ask the question.
We could use it in Fund 405, which is where you would pay for traffic signals at the intersection. You could transfer it into there, or the village just ends up borrowing along with because it'd be a joint project with the county.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're looking at what it costs for temporary measures, because the plan for this improvement through this area was really not until 2022.
So if we choose option 2, where that money, or at least part of that money goes into 405, we could potentially use it for temporary measures until the,
absolutely. Yep.
okay.
The only thing is that, if we get to 19 and we dip into our fund balance to help balance the budget. The last time we did that was when we had 100-some inches of snow. We had a tremendous snow plowing budget, you know. We actually dipped into fund balance to balance the budget. Then what you want to do the subsequent year is to sort of replenish that. And that's, so I would be careful. I think I would leave that money sitting in the general fund. I think Lisa agrees with that. Until the audit was done, and then we'd come back to the board then like next summer and say, okay, the 19 audit is done by June, May, June. And then we'd say, you're going to transfer money into 405 for the street lights, or do you want, or stoplights or signals, or do you want to keep it in the general fund? We'd have to talk about it at that point.
Okay.
Thank you.
Corey?
I guess along those lines and along that line of thinking, you know, I kind of like putting this dollar amount into contingency because one, I don't like dipping into fund balance to, you know, pay things that we, you know, I like having the money there to pay the bills that we have. And if we don't end up needing that contingency, we could transfer that money back to 405
Correct.
and put it to
Yep.
transportation
Yep.
improvements that are needed.
Yep.
So I'm in favor of option 3.
Anyway, Jenna, which option did you indicate you preferred?
I didn't indicate an
Okay,
option. I was
alright.
more concerned about if there was a way to use that money to help with the issues
Mhm,
in Perry and
mhm,
Janesville. And
okay.
it sounds like either option 2 or option 3 would give us some flexibility to do that, so,
And then if the board, you know, Lisa and I could have given you like 10 options if you thought is it confusing enough? So like an option 3A could be is you could go with Corey's idea, but I think we would still want to try to get it under $90 increase. I think it's just, you know, we were at $87 last year for an increase on average house, and I feel more comfortable keeping it, if the board agrees with that, of course, keeping under $90 the increase for 2020.
Anyone else have a comment? Or were you done, Corey?
Yeah.
Okay, anyone else have a comment? I looked at this also, and I looked at my bill last year, and I realized that we're at $87 last year. And so when I see 91, it's like, oh, that's not that much of a difference. And we could do, like Mike said, a modified option 3 or 3A, and take it to $89 and some change, or whatever staff chooses to do. And that would allow us to put money in contingency.
Mhm.
It would allow us to have some breathing room in case some unexpected thing comes up.
Yeah.
Like, who knows?
Well, one of the things well, we'll talk about this when we get further into the budget discussion is, you know, we're projecting out that we're gonna have our new planner generate income because, you know, right now, when we have a petitioner come to the village, they get billed by Vanderwall, who does a staff report to the plan commission. That's very, very common. Well, at least, you know, our new planner now will be doing that. We'll be charging the petitioner that money. And Lisa and I are just doing our best estimate or guess for next year about what that's gonna be. So we're a little bit off. We may have to use some of this contingency to help pay for the planner, so. Then we'll have a better handle on it
Okay.
next year at this time, so.
All right. Jeannie, did you have a position on this you wanted to make known?
No, I like option 3 or 3A.
Yeah, okay, thank you. Would you like a motion on this? Unless someone has
Please.
further discussion, I would look for a motion. Go ahead, Janet.
I'll make the motion to adopt option 3. Is it adopt? Or to choose option 3?
I think maybe you want to just even say, yeah, just
3A.
3A saying with the goal of, and I should, no, I'll let the motion go on the board.
Yeah, in other words, a levy under $90.
With
Yeah.
the levy under
Yeah.
$90.
Yeah.
There you go.
I'd second that.
Okay, any further discussion on this item?
You know, there's still a few things that are hanging out there that we don't know of, and so even if the board would adopts the budget tonight, it won't be $91.14. We're still waiting for health insurance, open enrollment, and so, but we have the direction we need from the board if this motion passes.
Thank you. Any questions on this? All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Good.
Thank you, Mike.
Thank you.
And you see, did you speak about highway aids at all?
We've been given a running tally to the board, because if you look at 2017, look at that compared to where we were, and where we are now. And it just shows you that there's just like with the library aid that Jennifer was talking about, they take, is it 6-year average? 3-year average, and then, so depending, like, we didn't do a major street project in 19, so that's gonna affect our average at some point, so.
Okay. Thank you, Mike.
Yep.
If there are no other questions about the material we have previously, I'll move on to item 16, which is the administrative section. And page 4, Mike, you want to take it away?
Sure, I can just go through these.
Or do you want Lisa to do that? No?
Okay, she can do it, I can do it if you want. Okay.
Mike does such a great job.
Yeah, great. So the first one is the village board, and this is where the board gets paid, and also, this is, I'm sorry, I'm on page 4. And this is where I note on the agenda, this is the League of Wisconsin dues get paid. Which, the league does a great job for us, just as a side point. I believe they do.
Very good.
Yep. Thanks. Should I just keep going?
Just keep going, Mike.
Okay. So then there's a municipal court on page 4 and 5, and this includes Judge Cox's proposal with the additional $5,800. This is what we talked about at the personnel meeting and at the last board meeting that got approved. Oh, I guess I'll just keep going. So then the legal's on page 5, and this is one where Lisa and I did take the general legal and increased it to 90. You'll see that when you get the next budget. And then prosecution budget continues to increase due to OWI, and then we did have to budget for police negotiations, which begin next year. So. And then the next budget is mine, pages on 5 and 6. Too exciting about that. The clerk budget, Peggy provided her 2019 accomplishments and 2020 goals that was in the packet 16E. And then this is her budget, and you'll see this with the elections, where the money's being shifted around because we have 4 elections in 2020, so the staff will spend more time on the elections, and that's why there's such a big difference. Like, you look at the elections on page 7, it's going from 82,000 to 134 because that next fall election is going to be humongous, right, Candy? Presidential? Yeah, it's going to be amazing. And April, yeah. Then on page, and please stop me when I'm going, I'm just going to keep going until somebody asks a question here. Page 7 of the computers, we have we have not had an annual agreement from Computer Magic, so we asked them for one, and our attorney is looking at it, and we'll bring that forward at some point, but this is what they're proposing is what's in the budget, the $50,000. And then you've got pages 7 and 8, and you see Lisa's goals and accomplishments. Any questions on those? And then what's in your packet is as 16H is, I mentioned this at the last meeting, is a financial plan proposal from Ellers, our financial advisor. And we actually have this in the budget, and we would like to do this next year. As I mentioned last week, we always do a CIP with Ellers, and they do a debt service analysis. And Lisa and I have been sort of plugging in a number for operations, but we really need to drill down into that operations number, as we think we're going to probably be adding 3 or 4 full-time people in the next 5 or 6 years or whatever. That needs to get figured into this financial plan about how can we afford to do that. So we're recommending that this proposal gets accepted by the board tonight, so we can start working on it with Ellers. So Jerry, I think we can go back and vote on this at the end. So-
Whatever you choose.
Yeah, let's.
I can do it now, or we can do
Well,
it.
no, Corey's not here. I don't know if you want to wait for Corey to come back, maybe.
Keep going then.
Yeah, okay.
We'll come back.
Yep.
We
So
might
then the
forget
assess-
if we don't,
Pardon?
we might forget otherwise.
No, I turned the page, so I won't. Then the assessor, this amount is that's in the budget as
Yep.
per the new 4-year contract with Accurate. And then pages 8 and 9 is the Village Hall budget. And then pages 9 and 10. This is where I'm asking the board, right now, there's currently $10,000 in the budget for the recruitment of the next administrator. And does the board feel that's enough, or should we have more in the budget, or do you want to have anything in the budget? Or
Does
just-
anybody have any idea if that's enough? I mean, I think I'd look for, I'd ask you to check around with people that have hired administrators recently.
Sure.
And see what they said they spent.
Yeah.
I think it would be a good idea to hire someone. I'd like to hear if anybody else has any thoughts on that. I think it's a very critical role. And I can't minimize, I don't want to minimize how large a role that is. So getting the right person in this position, I think, is critical. Go ahead, Corey.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think, anything we can do to get the word out more. I guess I question the $10,000. In my experience, I think I've seen more than that for recruiting a position at this level.
Yep.
So I would also be in favor of
Okay. So
supporting that.
you'd like a motion on this, Mike?
Well, I think what I'd like to do is, initially we had 20 in there, and then
Mhm.
as we tried to reduce the general fund levy, we took it down to 10. And so I would probably do is, going back to that option 3A, versus putting all that money in contingency, I would probably move some of that money into, I'd probably take 10 and I'll make this 20,000 for the recruitment. It's all in the same fund, so if we don't spend it, it's just gonna flow back into the fund balance anyway, so.
So you just earmark it for 20.
I'd make it 20 if the board's comfortable with that.
It's a good thing we have 3A as an option.
Exactly.
That's right.
Mhm. Yep.
Yeah, sorry.
Everybody else agree?
Yep.
Okay. They're all nodding their heads, Mike.
Yep.
Okay, sounds
that's
good,
fine.
thank you. Then the next item.
Wait.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Corey's back. Let's
Oh,
not
oh, you wanna go back
forget.
and-
Let's not forget.
So Corey, we're gonna vote on this it's 16H in your packet, elders. And we're recommending that the board vote on that separately then from all these budget items, so. And this is in the budget, just so you know, the cost of doing it.
Anybody have any questions with that now that Corey's here to discuss it with us?
I just want to say that I think it's a great idea, especially, hearing how much we have to navigate through property tax caps and trying to get the expenditure restrained, and it's never just an annual budget. We're having to look multiple years down the road, and because we're a vibrant, growing community.
Yeah.
I still
Yep.
like that phrase. Having a plan like this will be a really helpful guide and a worthy investment, in my opinion.
Anyone else? Would anyone like to make a motion?
I'll make that motion.
Would anyone like to make a
I'll
second?
second.
Got a motion and a second. Further discussion, anyone? All those in favor?
Aye.
Good.
Motion carries. Okay,
Thank you.
take it over, Mike.
Okay, then page 10 is the insurance, and at this point, we're still waiting for insurance numbers to come in. So we'll have those for sure by the public hearing date, so. Fire protection, you've already seen this on page 14 a couple times already. This is, as I'm noting here, that we're 64% of the fire district, and this is Glenn went through this pretty extensively at the at the July and most recent joint meeting we had in September. So any questions on that?
No, this was discussed at length at our
Yeah.
joint meeting, I
Yeah.
thought.
Right. Then also on page 14 is inspections, and this is the same note we had, last year. Safe Build serves as the village's building inspector. They take 75%, and we take 25% of the fee split. That's what's in effect right now. And Jeff, I think you feel it's working well.
Absolutely.
Then on pages 23 and 24. So I included, before that, there's two things before that. There's a letter from Erin, the president of the board of the directors of Oregon Youth Center, where she's asking for an increase of $2,000 in funding. And then I also just included an email that Jeff has sent to Gary Dish, so the board could just be reminded of all the things that we're continuing to do as part of the lease agreement or arrangement we have with the youth center as far as ongoing maintenance over there. And at this point, I did not put the extra $2,000 in the budget for the youth center because I felt that was really a board decision versus me doing it, so.
Anyone have any questions on the $2,000?
So I'll just say, I mean, brand new building, a lot more kids coming. I think $2,000. I mean, it's increased responsibility for the staff. I don't think it's a huge amount of money, but they're at a different ballgame now.
Mhm.
than they
What do
were.
you attribute the increased enrollment to?
Well, a bigger building, brand
Bigger
new building.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah, okay.
yeah,
All right.
Nicer facility.
yeah.
Kids want to.
Kids wanna be there.
More kids want to come.
Okay.
Than hadn't before.
That's good. That's good. So she doesn't really know what the $2,000 would consist of. She's just budgeting more because she,
I think she says,
yeah,
She
she
does-
said increased expenses, but
Yeah.
there was no detail on the 2,000.
she's just saying our monthly bills have increased significantly. I'm sure utility bills are higher.
Yes, yeah.
It's pretty understandable with a bigger building.
Okay,
Yeah.
Probably food costs with all the kids.
all right. Would you like a motion on this?
I think I would vote on that separately if you're gonna add the money to the budget,
Okay.
then it could be part of the overall motion then.
Would anyone else like to add to the discussion on the $2,000 for the youth center?
Is this
Go ahead.
something that could, that we can absorb in our budget? I mean, it's $2,000, which in the scheme of things sounds really small, but I have to, I'll take Jim for Jerry here. How are we gonna pay for it? Where's it gonna come from?
Well,
What part of the budget?
we would just work with option 3A to,
So it would be that.
it'd be my
3A.
standard line tonight.
Yeah,
Those are
3A,
great.
3A.
Yeah.
Thank God we got 3A.
We're gonna take like 150,000. Isn't there?
That's
We
what you
won't
do.
know that we won't know that. Michael tell us that next week.
Yeah. Yeah, I know. I mean, that's what you end up doing. You just end up moving
Yeah.
the money around. I don't know how
Now,
else to say
this is gonna be a moving target now until we adopt it.
Yeah.
So. And plus, as Mike indicated, he doesn't have he and Lisa don't have all the numbers in yet.
We're getting closer. We're still lacking a few things, so.
Yeah.
Right, Jerry?
Go ahead.
I was gonna say as well, in addition to option 3A, I think you said we're like $50,000 under the property tax cap, so realistically, like, we have $2,000 is
could.
not, we don't wanna get too close to it, obviously, that would be
Yeah.
risky, but,
If the board
$2,000.
votes for this, we'll find a way to.
Yeah,
put
I
it.
mean, we're gonna be moving money around until we adopt it in November, so. This is, right now, we're just doing place markers, more or less. So, anyone else have a comment on this? Did you say you wanted a motion on this?
If you're gonna add then, to do it, I think it should be a separate motion, and we would
Okay.
just include it as part of the overall motion then to.
Would someone like to make a motion to add $2,000 to the youth center budget?
I'll move, Jerry.
I'll second.
Got a motion and a second. Any further discussion or comments? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Then on page 24 is the planner, and then Corey, I think you were asking about the breakout of the planner expenses, and we put that, this is a sheet that we use when we're budgeting. And again, her first year here, I'll just better define after she's been here for a while.
Mike, would you explain where the revenue, offsetting revenue is coming from?
So it's coming from Mike Slavny not doing the staff, for example, the staffing reports for planning commission. You know, now the new planner, at least she'll be doing those, and we'll be billing the petitioner, developer a fee, and then that money will be going into the general fund.
Thank you.
Yep.
Any questions on that? Okay, keep going.
So then Q is the Economic Development Fund on page 24 as well. This includes our annual funding for the Chamber of Commerce. And then page 24, which is actually this year, is transferred out to other funds at 0. So if the board is comfortable, make sure I got the right letters on there.
I have a question, Mike.
Oh, you-
When you get
absolutely.
ready, I can save it for the end if you
No,
want.
I'm done. That's it for that section.
Okay, operations salaries, there's a big jump there. What is that?
You're,
And under the planner?
No, planning, yeah.
oh,
Well, that's Elise,
Oh, okay.
and she isn't starting until the end of October, so that's
Okay.
why it's only $12,000 for 2019.
All right. Anyone else have a question?
Jerry, I just
Randy?
wanted to just say Judy would have been here, but she's facilitating the J.C. Park fundraising committee tonight.
Thanks. But we'll muddle through it
Yeah.
without her. Anyone else have any questions about the chamber budget? Any comments? Okay, Mike?
we are done. We're on S, possible consideration of administrative section, agenda items 16A through R.
Okay, would someone like to bring forward a motion, please?
I move approval of items 16A through R.
And would someone like to
I'll
bring?
second, Jerry.
And we got a motion and a second. Did we have changes that we need to note on this motion?
I guess I'll note the change of the $2,000 for
Yeah.
the youth center.
Yeah, okay. All right. Just to be sure, Corey added it, so I'm okay with that.
Yeah, so basically, you're going to adopt these sections. You approve in a separate motion, you approve the Elders, and you also approve adding $2,000 to the youth center.
Okay, we all still good with that?
Yes.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries.
So now it's on to, you want to skip over Public Works? Do we
Yeah.
need that?
Yes,
Yeah.
we do need public works.
Just leave that for next year.
We only need the lawnmower.
And the pumps.
Yeah, the pump.
Yeah, what's the story with the pump?
It's not an agenda item. I don't know, here, actually, Mike, do we have the reclassification memos in there?
They're so.
Or they were part of
The
the
budget
first
starts
packet?
on 15, Jeff's 3 memos are the 3 pages before that in the budget.
Okay.
So go to page 15, Jeff.
Yep. Yep.
Page 15 of the budget?
And then you should be able to.
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
Back.
Other way.
Page 15,
Oh, page 15, where are you?
I'm at 10,
Oh, okay.
12.
14.
Here we go.
There you go. Yep.
Okay. All right, so I have 3 individuals just want to talk with you about some possible market wage adjustments. One is Kevin Stockstad. We hired Kevin in July of 2018. We hired him at a rate of 21 an hour and bumped him up as he's actually done exceptionally well with our staff. Kevin's one of the split employee between water and sewer, and he's the one that's operating our water jet vac, or our sewer jet vac truck. You know, at his current rate of $22 an hour, he is below the market rate, and I would like to bring him up, and bring him up to an equivalent with our rest of our crew, staff. So I actually show a 2-year adjustment, one that would be in 2020 at $23.50 an hour, and at 2021 at $25.50 an hour. And that would bring him into par with where he needs to be for his salary, or for his experience and expertise.
And so for these three memos, these adjustments are in the proposed budget. So I think if the board's comfortable, you know, for 2020, you could, if you approve Jeff's budgets, 17A through J, you'll be approving these market adjustments as well.
Okay, so we won't take motion on them.
Yeah.
Okay. Second item is for Jesse Wunsch. We hired him at $17 an hour. And he's currently at $17.43 an hour. You know, I am recommending that he be bumped up 50 cents an hour, basically at the time of his proof of passing the commercial driver's license. That would be additional experience that he has. He has one more step. He has the driving test to pass for that. And I anticipate that to be actually very soon. So, and then lastly, you're familiar with Ethan. Ethan is a young man that helps us out here in the village hall 3 hours a day. When he came to us, he came out of a program that was actually a state-funded program that had him at basically a very low rate. And you know, Ethan does a great job. He gets along really well with our staff. And I just felt the need that we should be bringing him up above what even, you know, above minimum wage, quite honestly. And he does receive benefits from the state and a coach and everything like that, but this is something I think we can afford. He does a nice job. He's exceptional with our staff, and I would just ask for your support on this. You can see a program there that would have him at $8.50 an hour in 2020, 2021 at $10 an hour, and 2022 at $11.50 an hour. And of course, this would also be based on continued positive performance reviews and recommendations. Any questions on any of those three?
So these funds would come from where?
They're out of our general fund.
General fund? Okay.
Looks at the sewer.
The water
Su-
and sewer for
yeah.
Kevin.
Oh, well, except for the sewer, yeah, except for Kevin, which is out of the water, or out of the water and sewer
Okay.
utility. Thank you.
Anyone have any questions regarding the Public Works budget? Or are you through?
Oh, no.
Okay.
Unless you want to vote on it.
No, I just wondered if there were any questions.
Jerry, I have a question.
Go ahead, Corey.
Do we have ranges for these various staffing types? And I guess have we ever looked at kind of, are we competitive with the market?
Great question.
We did an extensive, Candy did, an extensive salary survey last year, and we did wage adjustments. What happened was, these are former ASME positions, so when ASME went away, Lisa did her best job with trying to blend that schedule into ours, and it needs to be redone.
Yeah.
Redone. And so you look at our salary schedule in December, and you'll see that we have positions that are actually on a salary schedule with grades and everything. A lot of the former ASME positions don't have that because we haven't been able to figure out how to do that. We actually need to hire a consultant at some point to help us do that.
Okay.
But I'm comfortable that these, based on Candy's survey last year, that these are comparable wages.
I believe
Yeah.
our wages in public work are on par with what
Yeah.
we've experienced in other places. It's just difficult to kind of match sometimes where people
Yeah.
are with, you know.
Yeah.
But this does come into play with our current staff as well, making sure we're not putting someone too high or too low with existing staff who have a lot of experience.
Thank you for those answers. And I guess secondly, have we ever considered kind of routing these types of things through the personnel committee?
That's a great question. So you raised the question why we did the other ones. So when Jen and I met, we felt these were so minor that they didn't need to go through the committee.
Okay.
Yeah.
But we did the other ones instead.
Yeah, like with Beth, when she was, there was some moving pieces around in the total budget to make hers work, and then an additional ask of money that we did talk about at the personnel committee. But these were more straightforward as far as progressive wage increases with that.
And that occurred during a time when I could not be present at that meeting as well,
That was another factor.
in the end of September, so.
Because I just feel like, you know, here we don't have enough information to know how that compares with everyone else.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
okay, thank you.
Okay, Public Works budget, page 15 and 16.
And so Jeff, you wanted to have them look at a packet 17A item, which is your.
Oh, well, yeah, we can talk about our accomplishments and goals. And I try not to, actually, I know there's a lot of stuff missing off of this, even though we still have quite a bit of stuff. You can kind of see, as I summarize, water everywhere, you know, that's kind of a resounding gong that seems to happen on a daily basis, and we're working on it. But it did take a lot of energy from our staff. It's taken some money that we're not quite sure. I mean, we've got some rental fees for pumps and everything. So, you know, we'll be paying those, and getting that squared away here soon. But, you know, I will say this, that, you know, our staff, continues to operate exceptionally well. I have full confidence in my staff and Gary, and the guys to be able to get things done, and to basically, you know, even though we've had this huge amount of water, we have not had first floor flooding of residents. You know, we've not had the Florida Avenue scene where we've got high water marks on buildings and that type of thing. So, you know, I think we're blessed in that way as well. But we've done a lot, you know, working obviously on the Rotary Trail. I think the biggest accomplishment, honestly, for this last year was the Jefferson Street parking lot. And just seeing that totally come to completion, see it operating well, see residents happy and businesses happy, and we thank them for their patience. We know it was not an easy summer going through that, but, and then honestly, just as you look out it, if you drive by it at night, you don't have the power lines, you have these decorative lighting. This winter we'll put up some really nice lights up there, and it'll look really Christmassy and snowy and festive and that type of thing, and it'll look really nice. So we did get the crosswalks, some safety crosswalks on Netherwood completed. Those were actually at 3 locations, at Market, Oak, and at Perry Parkway, North Perry Parkway. And a lot of people, I guess, maybe didn't realize how much effort that goes into that, but that's basically rebuilding the entire ramps and curb in that area. My guys did all that work, and they did a phenomenal job with that. We freshened up all the painting. We talked about emergency pumping, obviously Netherwood, the whole Lake Barney incident that's been going on forever. Procurement of a $200,000 automated leaf vacuum truck. I'm very excited to say it gets delivered on Wednesday. And so I'm gonna be bringing a video to you of it actually in action. Not too late, we start leaf collection on Monday. So it's here, it's actually at their shop, they're doing their final check-throughs over in near Milwaukee, and it'll be here Wednesday at noon if anyone wants to come out and take a look at it.
That's very exciting.
That is
Yeah.
very exciting. I mean, you know, it sounds funny when we get excited about equipment, but, you know, we feel a lot of complaints from residents on how long it takes us to pick up leaves. And I am fully convinced that this is going to do amazing things for us in being able to reduce that time.
You gonna nickname it the elephant, like the city of Madison does?
Yeah, I don't know, we'll have to come up, we'll call it
That's what
Dumbo
they-
or something like that, or Jumbo or something, I don't know, but it's, I'm excited to see it, I'm excited to see it in action. We did the South Standpipe, you know, we did the assumption of the mowing of Prairie Mound Cemetery. I count that as a success and a small failure as well. We were not able to hire a full-time LTE to just spend that time up there 100%. So instead, we sent up once every week and a half, 6 guys, and would knock it out in less than a day. So, but I will say this, is we've never received as many compliments as we did this year and how well the cemetery looked. So I'm excited that we're making steps in that direction and everything. We're still gonna try to get an LTE. I know there's a semi-retired person out there that wants to mow and trim and take care of a cemetery, and we'll find that person.
Another year or two, I can think of another one.
Oh, I think Staten's ready. Yeah.
What's your phone number, Jeff?
But we'll have to train him, of course, but.
I'm ignoring him.
Well, there's another, yeah, that's true, there's another one.
That's who I was
yes.
referring to.
Yeah. So anyhow, you know, just, you can kind of look down the other stuff, you know, we do have the final design of the Park and Janesville Street intersections, you know, intersection and Park Street, that's gonna be a great improvement to that area. We did the dredging project, we did a lot of work with the drainage district, and that really came out of nowhere. That was not, we knew about it, but it was really not on our radars, you know, other than, you know, we knew it existed, but we didn't know anything about it. But, you know, we have a great relationship with them, and successful project this year, and we're planning a successful project for next year. We did replace the street sweeper, which was a great replacement as well, so that was at a procurement of $240,000. That was it's a wonderful piece of equipment. It's been working great. And then lots of dead trees removed out of Thompson. We built the Public Works cold storage building as part of the youth center moving and everything. We have a new agreement with Lincoln, with the town of Oregon on Lincoln Road. I think that was a great accomplishment. We have the TDS is continuing and finishing their build out of the village. I think it's wrapping up. There's still some cleanup and everything. And then you look at just the sheer development and a lot of things that wrapped up. And you know, when we see our building permits rising so much, that's another indication of how much we have really going on in the village. And then we've got a lot of, I think if you notice, I won't go through them all, but the notable items scheduled to be completed in 2020. We are going to be exceptionally busy. We have a lot of projects. We have a lot of road maintenance to be done. We have a lot of wastewater projects to be done. We've got the Janesville Park Street intersection to be done. We'll be discussing the bike path and possible or potential fixes for that bike path. And there is just a lot of things that's going to keep us busy in 2020. But I think we can handle it. We'll just be running the whole year. So it was a very, very challenging year for us. It continues to be a challenging year, but it's a great honor to be able to lead this, and I think we're doing a good job. I think we always can improve, but we're taking care of a lot of things, and you know, I just commend my staff in doing such a great job. So that covers that. I wasn't planning on going line for line through just the regular budgets, but we have the Public Works Administration budget on 15 and 16. We have the engineering budget on page 16. Public Works machinery repair as well on the same page. Public Works garage. And I will say with a lot of these budgets, you know, every year they can change a little bit here or there, because we may have a season where 3 garage doors break in one season, and then we go 2 years and none of them break. So, you know, it kind of is a kind of a moving target with all of that. Snow and ice control is always an important one. You can kind of see we always have, you know, our salt budget always goes up, and I still have it in my. Honestly, if I had the time and resources, I'd like to look at options that we could do to salt less. And like I've said before, that's kind of the equivalent of saying let's mow less, because it's going to be people's perception of what they expect. And you know, we have kind of come to a location in our society where we expect clear, clean roads, ice-free roads, snow-free roads all the time, and that requires a lot of salt. Problem is we're seeing chloride levels in streams just start to rise everywhere. And so I'd like to eventually see us decrease the amount of salt, but we've added another 3% of roadways last year, and our residents currently expect that to be salted and taken care of. So that's kind of where our salt budget sits right now and everything. So, but that'll be a kind of an executive decision by the board. If that's something that you wish to say, we are only going to salt during the certain times. I think it is Monona that doesn't even salt at all. Is that right? Or plow?
I'm not sure, but I'm sure they're sensitive because of Lake Monona.
Right,
Yeah.
right. So I mean, there's communities that do something different, do things differently, but it takes a shift in how our public will perceive that and how they will accept that. So. Trying to go through and mark these as I go. Traffic signals.
Jeff,
Yes, sorry.
Amanda had a question here.
Yeah. Oh, I
sorry.
Or, I'm sorry.
No, you're. I feel like in regards to the salt issue, that last year we had a similar conversation, and there was talk of potentially experimenting with some roads and decreasing salt. Did that ever?
No, we never, no.
Okay.
We didn't do anything with that. You know, quite honestly, when we get so busy with so many things, it becomes sometimes status quo until you can have the time to be able to change stuff, time
Sure.
and resources to change stuff. So no, we
Yeah.
didn't. And some of it is, be sensitive here, changing the ways, even how my staff does things and has done things for so many years.
Yeah.
And I'll be the first to admit, sometimes some of my ideas fall totally flat, you know, but then sometimes they're good ideas. So sometimes getting people to accept and say, well, maybe we won't salt as much this year, it's a process.
Sure.
I guess I would just like to say that I think that there are ways that we can decrease the salt use and not have a decreased level of service. I think we could actually still increase our level of service with some changes in how we do things, and some of that might require some capital investment. So in the future, I would like us to think about that and look at that, you know, pre-treating, pre-wetting, you know, getting into that type of
Do a salt
technology.
brine or something,
Yes.
yes, exactly, yeah.
So, not for this budget season, but it's somewhere
Right.
where I eventually
It's-
would like to get.
You know, a couple of years ago, I was thinking, yeah, we need to get into that, we need to do that, and then I put that on the pile of projects that, it's my wish list project, but, yeah.
I want
Okay.
to echo what Corey's saying too. I would love to see us decrease our salt use, but still be servicing the people of our community to the point where they're satisfied that they can get around without crashing into one another.
Right.
So,
Some of it's like what we were talking about earlier with, you know, the intersection and everything like that. We can put as many things in people's way and all that type of stuff, but it still comes down to the person who's behind the wheel and how they're driving. And I've lived in mountain communities before, and you just learn to drive as the conditions are, not, you know, expect to be able to drive in the way you can all the time. And that's where I'm thinking the mental shift has to work as well. Don't make me do beet juice, please. That's actually something that,
it actually occurred to me, but
Yes.
I'm not gonna say that.
yes.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
would just make the
All our
streets
curbs
a
will be
bloody
pink.
mess it would look like. No.
Yeah, but I will continue to work towards it. Okay. All right, snow and ice. Street lighting, traffic signals and street lighting. Traffic signals, obviously, we share, we pay the cost, and Dane County helps maintain those. Actually, City of Madison does. Street lighting, electricity, gas. The street lighting, you know, we did a street, or Alliant Energy did an audit in 2018 and bumped that up, and that hit us in 2018 and for the first time in 2019 for a full year. And they've been pretty close. It's we're paying what we have out there. The one thing I will say, just in street lighting, I would like to just applaud Alliant Energy for always being incredibly effective in coming out and changing out broken street lights. I get maybe 1 or 2 street light emails a week. I email them to John Zielinski, who's a resident here, and they're usually addressed within less than 24 hours. And so they're always very responsive to us, and typically they actually upgrade the fixture when they do it to an LED. So that's been good.
Jeff, I'm always amazed at how much street lighting costs.
Yes,
We're looking at $11,000 a month roughly.
or more, yeah.
Or more, yeah.
Mhm.
It's just one of those things you take for granted.
Yep.
And realize there's a big bill.
Yeah, and we're paying basically per light fixture, and there's, and some of them we're paying a long-term rental, and that's just the way it was set up many years ago. Some of them we're not, nowadays when we do new subdivisions, we're making the developers pay for the poles, and then we're just paying for the electricity part of it and stuff, so.
Very good.
It's a better deal for us. So that's street lighting. Storm sewer. This isn't capital storm sewer, this is just operational storm sewers. So it's just taking care of, obviously, our storm sewer system. Trees, brush, and leaves.
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
On the very last line under storm sewer on page 18, how come our property insurance went up so much? What is going on with that?
That's a great question.
Yeah, that's Peggy.
Yeah, that's a Peggy question.
Okay.
We'll find out for you.
Yeah. Make a
No problem.
note of that.
Yeah.
Okay, good. Thanks.
Well, and gas and oil went up too, but I don't
Gas and
know.
oils, yeah, I mean, that continues to go up, just with the sheer volume of equipment. I increased that also because of our new machine and everything.
Kenny knows the answer.
Actually, we had an audit of our, all of our buildings and our property in the open and our contractors' equipment, and it all increased.
Ooh,
So
that's a big increase. Okay. Well, there's not much we can do about that, though. We have to
No,
have
I
it,
mean,
so.
Yep,
All right. Thank you.
all right. Trees, brush, and leaves, our favorite thing this time of year. Now, the one thing you will see in there is I've included $17,000 for brush pile grinding and hauling. That's a big number. That has been the direction of the village board over the last many years. It used to, I think historically, I believe it accidentally got struck by lightning once or twice a year and burned, but we're not burning the pile. And so that, the cost of that includes the grinding and the hauling away of the material, and that saved us a lot of time. I think, Corey, you agreed that that was money well spent and everything. And cemetery, our beautiful cemetery, which I think it looks better every day, but we're making improvements on it. That's just kind of our standard thing for the cemetery. Any questions on that? Okay. So that's, now that I'm done with A through J.
So now I would ask the board if you want to approve 17A through J, that you would just say, and also to include the market wage adjustments for the record.
I'll make a motion to approve items A through J, including the market wage adjustments.
I'll second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you.
I'll take over while Sherry's gone. So now we're at item 18, special funds. We have page 26, which is a sick leave fund. Who wants to go over this?
Do you want me to explain that?
Yes,
Okay.
yes, please.
So we put a little bit of a lengthy note on here because Lisa and I have been working on this for the last couple of years, anticipating 2 retirements happening in 2021. As I note here, this benefit is only available to employees who have been supervisors for at least 20 years and were employed by the village prior to January of 2006. So people got grandfathered in at that point. So I think we're down to 6 employees, something like 5 or 6 employees that are eligible at this point for it. So we're trying to get a balance, and then that balance will go away, and then there'll be more than a few years before we have to start building that balance up again. So that's on page 26. Gene, you want me just to go through this, Brent, save your voice? Okay. So on page 35 is the Hermson Park. It's the property fund. And we note on here, this is where we collect $155 per lot sold for, we're creating a park maintenance fund for that park whenever we get it, so it'll be nice to have when that happens. CDA fund is on page 36, which has not been active for quite some time. Page 38 is Preserve the Water Tower, and we're budgeting for the July ice cream social, which has been very popular, so I think we'll be doing that again.
Yeah, Mike, can I just say,
Absolutely.
you know, we have T-shirts and things over at the Welcome Center, and whenever it's open, we have a donation
Yep.
thing. So whatever we get from T-shirts or people just donate, we send it back all over here. It all comes to the village.
Yep. Page 39 is the Hermiston Cemetery Trust Fund. Page 42 and 43 is the Refuse and Recycling Fund. This is where we take Pelletier. Now, the one thing we did this year is we're always trying to figure a way to keep the general fund levy down. So Lisa and I are transferring $3,000 out of the fund balance that's in this fund into general fund to help offset the staff time, all the handling of refuse and recycling questions and items in the front office. That's what we're doing in 2020. Then on page 44 and 45 is the room tax fund. And I don't know if you want to go back and look, and if you have any questions about, did you understand? Oh, sorry.
I have had a question about the refuse and
Yep.
recycling pickup. Is that our negotiated contract for 2020 already? Is that what
Yeah,
it will
yes.
be?
Yeah, it
Because
is.
I've seen a lot of other municipalities getting hit with increased charges because recycling costs are going
Yep.
up significantly.
We have a contract with
Well, it was a
Belter.
5-year contract,
Yeah.
I think,
What
with
does
them. I
it
think it
go
was just
through?
last year. I think those are like 2022 or something like that.
Okay, because at the end of that contract, we'll have to budget more money to
Yeah.
make sure that
For
we have enough to
recycling.
cover recycling.
Is,
Thank you.
excuse
I
me,
did, oh, I'm sorry.
it's going up, or they aren't able to recycle it, or?
Both, it's going up
Yeah.
significantly. The
Okay.
China market isn't
Yeah.
buying
Okay.
a lot of the recycling, so that we're still recycling, but it costs more to recycle.
I've heard that now that you mention
I
it, yeah.
emailed Pelletieri last year when that was happening. I was in the news, I got concerned. They said they still have, their markets are available, but who knows in a couple of years what will happen. Yeah.
Can I ask
Um,
another
go ahead,
question
Amanda.
about that too?
Absolutely.
The $3,000, I don't have an issue with it to cover time, but I'm wondering if there's something we can do so that those questions are lessened for the staff? Like, is there more information we can put on our webpage about that would cut down on the number of calls you have to take?
Go ahead, Kenny.
We just put a actually Pelletieri is doing a really good job. They're doing these like 40-second clips, of how to recycle
Yeah.
proper items. Like, for instance, like a pizza box, like you don't think like that would normally be thrown in the trash, but you can rip off the top and recycle the top because the top isn't full of grease. So there's a lot of super helpful links to Pelletieri in those videos, and we've been kind of showcasing them on our website, and we're also talking about sharing them on Facebook and stuff like that too. Just like recycle tip of the day. So we're working on that too.
Okay, thank you.
Any more questions on that?
No.
Okay. So room tax fund on pages 40 and 45. I just said you could refer back to the overview, but were there any questions about the room tax fund? This is really the first year that we'll be really allocating money and having a room tax commission and all that, so.
Would you please go over where those
Sure.
funds go?
It's in the, go back to the tab where it says overview, Jerry,
Okay,
on page 13.
got it?
So on that page, we say that the 2020 budget shows the room tax collection and transfer out to the already established room tax commission. I think we're having our first meeting on November 12th or 11th, something like that. But per state law, we must transfer to the commission 70% of anything we collect, and the village gets to retain and spend its 30% allocation in other areas. And one of the things we're doing in the 2020 budget is we propose to transfer $10,000 to help fund the village, new village planner's time that she's gonna spend doing playing fields development, rather than using levy. Any questions on that?
I didn't see it on page 13. Oh,
In the overview.
In overview,
oh. Thank you.
sure.
Yeah, that's it. All right.
It's going to be,
Okay.
this is, like I said, this is really the first year that we actually have money to transfer out, so. Any questions on that? Okay. So then we have pages 47 and 48 is the TIF 2 Special Revenue Fund, and this was closed in 18, so this will probably be this will be the last year you'll actually see this budget, right? Lisa? Right. Oh, that's right, there'll be one more. Yeah. Then pages 49, 50, and 51. This will be we're saying this is gonna be the fourth year of the debt service for the Growmore loan that the village did with Growmore for their building next to Firefly. So it was a TIP project. Then pages 52, 53, 54, this is the headquarters began paying interest on a TIF loan in 2017. And interest payment will stay in TID 4, but increment will be transferred back to the general fund to pay back in advance. what we did back then, if you may remember that, rather than taking a loan out, we just advanced money from the general fund for this TIF project, and now the increment's paying itself back, ourselves back. Okay. Pages 55, 56, 57 is TIF 5. And Lisa and I were just talking about this today that, I'm sorry, this is where the new TICE TIF grant is in this fund. And then in 2020, we were proposing to make TID 5 a donor district to TIF 3 to help pay for the debt service that we allocate or levy in TID 3. But we're going to ask the board to hold making this recommendation on the Elder's proposal. We think it may be a little premature, plus it's really expensive. It's $13,500, and we're gonna hope that maybe with the new planner here that we can maybe try to cut some of that cost off of there. So, and we don't need to do it right away, so we're just gonna ask not to vote on that tonight. Any questions on that? The workforce housing is on page 59. As I note, we're showing the Genesis Housing getting the award next year, and it's contingent on the federal grant being awarded. And I think it sounds promising that that's going to happen. We'll be excited about that if it does. And then pages 60 and 61 is the TIF 3 debt service fund, and this is where anything we can do. If you look on page 60, it says general property tax. That's $210,000 of property taxes we're using versus using increment to pay the TIF debt service. So anything we can do to lessen that helps the borrowing for the library, for JC Park West, and so forth. So at some point, I think we'll consider making TIF 5 a donor district, so if it ever has excess increment, it can transfer that increment into TID 3, but at this point, it really doesn't. And just years ago, when TID 2 was alive and thriving, we actually did that for TID 2. TIF 2 became a donor district to TID 3, in a way just trying to keep as much of this debt service off the levy as we can.
Mm-hmm. Where is TIF 5 again?
TID 5 is what used to be TID 3, and also it goes all the way up Main Street, includes part of the vacant lots in the business park, Thompson Drive, the corner of the vacant lot that Jim Lease owns with Mary
Yes.
Jo.
Thank you.
It's pretty big. Yeah.
Whichever.
Go
You
ahead.
wanna- When does TID 3 close?
It didn't close.
When does it?
Oh, I'm sorry, 2035, I think,
Okay.
2032,
I
sorry.
thought it was in the 30s.
Yeah. So we just did TID 5 as an overlay district.
Right.
Yeah.
And so then any projects will go through TID 5, right?
Yep.
It's longer
Yep.
term? Okay,
Yep.
thank you.
So TIF 3 just didn't generate enough increment to cover its own costs, and I guess is there any hope of any other project coming along that could create increment?
That's why we created TIF 5, because now so all the new increment will be happening in TID 5.
Okay.
It's larger. What happened was when TID 3 got created, like back in 2004 or 5, this is before we did, so most of this debt service that's in TID 3 is for the downtown improvements we did in 08 and 09. And so the idea we had is that, you've done this, you've gone through a TIF preparation, you go, okay, we're gonna try to figure out where the increment is gonna get generated. So we thought that the property where the old Methodist church used to be was gonna turn into, was gonna go on the tax roll and generate $6, $7, $8 million of value. So we thought, well, once that happens, that will pay for the intersection improvements downtown. Well, that never happened. We came close, but then the recession came in 08, and so that property never got on the tax roll. Well, we got on tax roll for a while, but not to the extent we thought. So unfortunately, this TID 3 debt service has hit the levy for a long time already.
So I guess first of all, why are we holding off on making TIF 5 a donor district? And then I guess secondly, when we do that, will we then close TIF 3 once that is zeroed out, I guess?
TID 3 will, well, we have, at some point, we may even think about extending the life of the TID, just in case whatever would start to pay some of the general fund back. But the reason why we're not in a hurry to do it right now is because there is no excess TIF increment in 5 to pay 3.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, we're gonna talk to Ellers again. They see something we don't, but we just looked at it today and we don't see that. And we just think it seems very expensive. It's like almost we're creating a brand new district for what they're charging us, so we may try to reduce the cost a little bit.
Thank
So I
you.
mean, you may see it again, but I'm not asking you to vote for it tonight.
Okay.
Let's see, TID, so on page 6, any questions on TID 3, debt service? So then we're on pages 62 and 63, which is the TID, and so again, this is TID 2, which closed, and when we escrowed the amount to pay off when Brown Road got installed, we took out a loan, closed TID 2, we had to escrow that debt service, and so that loan is paid off next year, which is nice to see. Any questions on that? On pages 64 and 65 is the general debt service fund. And this shows you, if you look on page 64, it's under license and permits, it says fire impact fee. So that's where we reduce, we're using less, proposing to use less fire impact fees in 2020. And that will help us when we're doing the budget for 2021. We'll have more impact fees to offset the debt service at its last year, as an example.
Mike?
Yep.
I have a question on the debt service fund.
Yep.
You indicated that the debt service is increasing over $120,000.
Yep.
What's the biggest factor driving that?
I think I anticipated that question. I think Lisa answered me that it was the debt we took out in 18, right?
Correct.
The debt we took out in 18.
Okay, and do you recall what we took it out for? I'm just trying to refresh my memory, and everybody else's, I guess.
Well, that would have been, we would have borrowed money for streets, our annual street program.
Okay,
Did we borrow for the cold storage building?
Yes.
We took out extra money, I think, to do the Jefferson Street parking lot.
okay. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, top of my head, yeah. Any other questions on that?
Nope.
Okay. Then on pages 66 and 67, we've got TID for debt service. So I'm going to try to explain this. And so we're saying the 2020 budget includes paying off. So I should back up here. When we bought the motel property, we took out a loan for $550,000 to actually buy the motel property from the state. And then we took out another loan to $50,000 to help us knock it down and clean it out and so forth. And so what happened is we didn't spend all that $50,000. So Lisa and I have the idea that what we should do is, and then we sold the property just recently to Dan Bertler for $36,000 or $36,000 something. And so what we're saying is that we want to take, because we can do this, take the balance of the $50,000 loan from the state along with some of Dan's money that he paid us and pay off the $50,000 loan, so we can get rid of the principal and interest payment for that $50,000 loan. We think it makes sense to do that. And we can, with a state trust fund loan, you can do that, I think, twice a year, I think in March and November. So we would do this in March of next year, pay off that loan. And then we also would be borrowing to do the intersection of Park Street and Janesville, and also Park Street, the entire street. So, and just as a side point, I know everyone's very worried about, and we are too, believe me, Janesville and Perry Parkway, but Jeff will support me that when Jeff had his public forum on this intersection, there was a lot of concern about pedestrian traffic going, and that's why we went with signals versus a roundabout. So, I mean, every intersection on that street has trouble with pedestrians crossing, so we recognize that both these intersections need to be dealt with. We also, but that, again, that's why we're doing signals at this intersection versus a roundabout. So, any questions on that? Okay. And then TIF 5, debt service is on page 68 and 69. And this is basically paying for the facade grants that we've done, wayfinding signs, that our new planner is going to help us do, right, Jeff?
Yep.
We still have to take that tour when she comes. And then the Jefferson Street parking lot improvements that Jeff was talking about a few minutes ago. Any questions on that? Developer Stormwater Fund, the only thing we're spending money out of this fund is paying the $2,000 for the annual inspection for the Drainage District Board in 2020. Then on pages 74, 75, and 76, these are the street improvements. And just like we did a couple years ago, Jeff did not do projects in 19, so we're going to do a larger
Maintenance projects.
larger maintenance projects in 2020. And Jeff, you have anything to say about that?
No, the only thing I did, one of the notes is not correct there. Under chip sealing, it should be $80,000, because there's 40 from 2019 and 40 from 2020. So, and that's what adds up to that 690. The streets you see there are the ones that we had carried over from 2018, or from the 2019 budget. What, we just actually completed our annual, we call our PACE, it's a every other year PACER analysis of all the roadways. And that's gonna give us kind of a picture of what are the worst roadways in our village, how that compares to our CIP, and whether we need to do maintenance on them. So this list is tentative, at least a tentative start, but we'll be doing other projects including these.
Any questions on that?
Good that you're doing more on the streets.
Yep. Well, we'll be getting it out early this year too, so it'll be an early year project. I don't want to be doing late season seal coating and that again.
Yes. Yep.
We kind of blasted right past it before I even thought of it. Back on page 70, the developer stormwater fund, weren't we thinking also of talking to the drainage district about potentially doing other improvements through Lerner for improving drainage?
Yep, that's coming up.
Okay, so that's not in this?
If we had money, we would love to be spending it out of there, but there's not enough money left in there to do anything significant.
We kind of drained some of that when we did two big culvert replacements in the last year.
Yeah, we drained the money out of, yeah. Very good.
It's a fluid kind of thing.
I had a question quick too, page 75 for sidewalk and bike path. That's, we're not putting, that's not, is there like funding for repair of sidewalks at all? Because I know there are some sidewalks in town that are in bad shape, and I know that that's a homeowner shared cost kind of.
It's actually a homeowner responsible
It is
cost.
homeowner responsibility.
Yeah.
But their cost.
Yeah, we don't, the only time we go in and do repairs to sidewalks is when we're doing street reconstructions. And then it's a split cost, 50-50.
Then it's split, okay.
Yeah.
Because you're there anyway and it saves.
Correct,
I'm with
yeah.
you now. Interesting, okay.
Then we
Thank
do
you.
a special assessment and they have 3 years usually to pay that 50% cost.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay, thank you.
Any other questions for Ray?
Yeah, I guess I'll be delivering bad news.
Page 77 is the cemetery land purchase fund. That money is just sitting there in case we ever decide to purchase property for the cemetery. That we're just showing the interest income on that page that we make on it. Flipping it over. So pages 78, 79, 80, and 81 is Fund 414. And this is the equipment list, and then this is what the mower that Jeff's proposing, that was in your packet, proposing to purchase. And also, and Corey, this is where the stormwater projects are listed in this fund. And I should also note on here, that at this point, if you look on the middle of page of 79, there's $100,000 for a new phone system. That's just a placeholder in the budget. We should be coming forward to the board in November, Andy? With the proposal to go out, or something like that. November, beginning of December for the new phone system, so. So did you want to have any questions about just equipment? Stormwater questions? And that funding that's coming from the town we'll delete that because there's been nothing decided. The Netherwood project, we're going to just show as a $300,000 project on in the middle of page 80. Any questions on that?
So those are all general fund funded projects, I guess, the stormwater, the.
This is all capital.
Okay.
Once you're in the special funds, this is all capital.
Okay.
Yep.
So presumably that would be borrowing.
It'd be borrow money. Yep. Borrow money that either it's from last year or we'll have it, I'm sorry, I guess it would be from last year or this year and then 2020. That could be used. Any questions on that, on 414? Okay. So then the bike trail, this is, as I note on the agenda, we still need to show the $1,000 coming in from the Rotary Club. We think this is the last year of their donation. And then this is the funding to rebuild the Rotary Trail. And either at the next meeting or the first meeting in November, we'll have Jeff's gonna prepare a spreadsheet showing the cost of the trail, including the purchase of the easements as well as the revenue, just so the board can see the revenue versus expenses for the trail. So we have a more in-depth discussion at that point as well. Then on pages 86 and 87, this is the Southeast Business Park. Now with the new planner here, we are proposing to borrow $75,000 to really start doing some significant planning to get the business park started on the other side of 14. And rather than trying to limp along and try to find cash, which we've done over the last couple of years, we're going to come back to the board. The board doesn't make a decision on this tonight, but this would probably be one of the things you'll see in the springtime when we have the proposal from Ellers to do borrowing, that we're going to borrow the money to get going on developing the business park. So, any questions on that? Yeah.
I guess we should know more about our facilities plan before that work would occur, because, I don't see how much planning we can do until we know how that area would be served with water and sewer.
Yes, it's kind of in parallel right now, as far as, the facilities plan is, you'll be seeing actually that presentation on December 9th, which will kind of outline, I think, it'll help firm up a lot of the direction that we believe we're going with the wastewater treatment plant. But you're right, it needs to be part of that consideration.
So the $75,000 is not, we would all spend that next year. This would be over like a 3 or 4 year, or actually 3-year period, right? Yeah, 3-year period. So we have so much work to do before we even get to the facility planning. We've got to be contacting the town of Rutland. We have to do setting up meetings with the property owners. We have annexations. We have a lot of stuff to do before we even get to, to the point where, if we get to the point where we're having to pull back for a year because of sewers, we'll have to do that, but we have a long time before we get there.
So this is earmarking, I guess, borrowing that, the spending of that would need to come back to us?
Oh, yeah, this has to come back as part of the borrowing in springtime. Yeah. And, and we could come back, and depending, when Elise is here, we're meeting with her she's been here 4 or 5 months, no, actually maybe longer than that. we may come back and say only borrow 25,000 next year, potentially, yeah.
Okay.
It's truly,
Placeholder.
it's a placeholder, because I think we just want to demonstrate to the board that with her here, we are really gonna start working on the business part next year. Get going on it. Any other questions on that?
No, but can I rewind again?
Yeah, sure, absolutely, absolutely.
Sorry.
That's all right, that's fine.
For the Oregon Bike Trail Fund,
yep.
don't we have some potential grants that are floating out there, and are
Yep.
those just not considered at this
It's,
point?
I haven't got the official word on it yet, so I'm hoping by the next board meeting or this subsequent meeting, I can give you the official word on the grants. We haven't officially heard the word on it yet.
Okay.
Yep. I don't want to jinx ourselves and tell you about it, or telling you about it.
Well, that sounds good.
Any questions? Yeah. Okay. So page 88 is the TIF 3 capital project. So again, because of the TIF 5 overlay project, or a TIF being created now, there's an activity in this fund. And then this is the DNR grant Jerry Bollick fund that we talk about every year.
Yes,
Right, Jerry?
I love from 2006.
Well, yeah, well, actually, it was after the 07 flood, so it was.
Right.
Yeah. So, we talk about this every year, and what happened, I should say, is when we had the flood in 07, we went through a period of, we bought, I think, 5 or 6 houses in the Florida Avenue area. And rather than borrowing for it, the village advanced money from the general fund. And with the idea that when annexations happened, we collected developer stormwater payment from the annexation. And the idea was to be paying this off. Well, as soon as we did that, the recession came, and we went 10, 11 years without having any annexations happening until before development. And so we paid a little bit off in 18, but Jerry and I were talking about today whether or not we should try to figure some way to pay this off and just make it just regular debt service. And the only way we could probably do that is either maybe get a local bank loan, right? I thought that we could do that too. Or we could try to see if the state would lend us the money to pay this off. But then we'd have it as debt service, and we'd get rid of this DNR fund, so.
Yeah, it's time, one way or the other, right?
Yeah. The auditors have never questioned it, right? They think what we're doing seems fine,
Okay.
so. But if the board wants us to go a different direction, I'm willing to listen to that. Okay. Then on pages 90, 91 and 92, this is the TIF 4 capital projects. And with the Park Street development happening next year, we anticipate that at least the staff planner's time should be spending time down there. So we allocated some of her time to TIF 4. And then this would be Park Street and Janesville Street projects are in this capital project fund. And then AA on pages 93, 94, this is our, we mentioned this, I think during the overview, where this would be our first, this would be the beginning of doing the initial conceptual planning for the new senior center. Next year, this would be borrowed money as well. And then the second last page of the budget is page 116, and that's the departure of care for the cemetery.
Okay.
So, is there any questions on any of that?
You ready for motion?
It's up to the board. Yep.
Would anyone like to make a motion to consider special fund items 18A through BB?
I'll make a motion.
Wait a minute. Yeah,
Except
we,
for K.
Yep, 18K,
We're
take
not
off.
doing the,
yeah.
well, the pages, yes, but not the
You're not,
Eller's
yeah,
proposal.
that would have been a separate
So we
motion,
can
Eller,
still,
so you're
oh,
okay.
okay, so we're okay.
Yep,
Okay,
you're
never
okay.
mind.
Yep.
So are we excluding K for the time being?
No.
No, you're still approving that fund, you're just not
Okay,
approving the
great.
proposal from Ellers.
What about TIF number 4, debt service?
Everything else you can approve.
Okay.
Yep.
Someone like to bring forward a motion then?
I'll make the motion to approve special fund items 18A through BB.
I'll second it.
We've got a motion and a second. Any further questions or discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Okay, Mike, is Jeff gonna do water and sewer?
I think maybe Lisa and I will, with Jeff's help, will do it, so.
Yep.
So, there's, in your packet were some updated water and sewer budget sheets. And actually, is it in water?
Yeah,
Yeah.
there's actually, I found another one too.
So there's a few errors that may want to maybe explain what happened.
So on the first page, the water fund, the other income deductions.
Oh, it's in the packet.
Oh, it's in the packet.
That was handed out, yeah. with the
On
pink
Friday, they came out on Friday.
Okay.
Yep.
So
Thank you.
the packet that you probably put behind the 1014 tab.
Yeah.
It's all stapled as one item.
What page is it?
No, it's in your packet.
Yep.
95.
Top.
95.
Okay.
Yeah, 95 through 108, yeah.
Labeled 19A.
Yep.
So there were a couple keying errors. So on the first page, the other income deductions, that should be a negative because that's our depreciation that we account for every year. I found that one after I talked with you and
Okay.
Jeff, as I was going through it. And then on page 108 for water, the transfer out to other funds was duplicated on maintenance of general plant and then under transfer out to other funds, so that needs to be zeroed out under the maintenance of general plant. And that dollar amount is supposed to be under transfer out to other funds. So I made those couple of corrections. So the.
That's what it does.
Yeah, so the $350-some thousand deficit, that's more the true deficit then, because of the depreciation.
Do we really have that?
Yeah.
300?
Yeah, it's $300 and some $1,000 deficit. And we're not 100% sure, because this is, you had to convert from the Class C to the Class AB. And I didn't have time to go through and add it up to make sure it was like adding everything right, because it just doesn't seem like it should be that much of a difference. But one of the things that we know that is making a big difference is the decrease that we're receiving for our water impact fees of almost $1,000 per building permit. So if we normally budget for about 40 building permits, so that's $40,000. And if you look on page 1 under the current year actual, we're at $139,000 this year, so that's significantly more than 40 building permits. And the reason it looks really super high is because any commercial building permits, that's calculated different, and it's a much higher amount that they pay other than the $2,500.
So
Or the
$1,800.
$1,800.
So the board hasn't technically approved the water impact fees, but you gave us direction to Laura when the attorney was here to do the needs assessment. She's coming back here on December 16th, so these will be in place for 2020, this lower amount. So, which I think it makes sense. It helps us be competitive with other communities that are with their impact fees across the board. So, because you remember we also just raised library impact fees, so it's kind of a balancing out. Yeah.
And then the new park improvement.
A new park improvement, yep. Yep.
Meter reading,
Mhm.
that seems to have gone up quite a bit. Any
What page are you on, Jenna?
108? Says total meter reading, and the projected actuals for this year is like 200,000, but 2020 fiscal year adopted is 860.
Oh, no, that's.
Am I reading that wrong?
That's what Lisa was saying about.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. Okay.
Yeah.
That's not really a budget line item, that's,
Yeah,
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
don't know why
so-
that line is there.
Okay.
So what happened when we changed from a Class C utility, which is you kind of go in different tiers, to a Class AB utility, they kind of they throw everyone in a loophole, and they kind of say, okay, everything that you're using for tracking all your numbers and all that kind of stuff, you're gonna change all those. And not only change them, but multiply them by a factor of about 3. And so we're still, I mean, this is the first year of initial and AB utility. We're still tracking everything, you know, I feel we're still tracking everything, and it's just, Lisa and I are still trying to straighten out what categories we should be using for everything, because, you know, she had broken it out so that salaries and managerial and FICA and all that kind of stuff was under every little line item, and we don't have to do that, so that's why they're all under that last page on 108, or, no, where was that? That was on the page before.
Yeah, if I can get it figured out.
Under employee,
I think
on page 107. So, we're working on it. You know, the other thing with this, and Lisa and I were talking about this afternoon, our water utility has always been very strong. In fact, we actually end up with a surplus every year. Our 2018 surplus was $255,000. And our water balance, our fund balance sits at about 1.94 million. Okay, so we're a very strong water utility. I think there's some math things that we need to work out with some of this.
I think it's the formatting of the report now, since it has a lot more categories. It just doesn't look right, and I don't know how to fix it per se, because it's in the setup of the reports, which I'm not a programmer, so I'll have to get a hold of somebody to help me get it figured out.
From the state?
No, from just in
Oh,
Cassell.
Gotcha, okay.
How this is formatted. I think there's something wrong with the formatting of this report.
But we'll be checking through that. I don't believe we would not be operating at a $351,000 deficit.
No, because
Not,
I went through and I
1.-
just kind of compared like the 19 budget to the 20, and there wasn't a lot of change, so that's why I'm really confused as to what numbers are getting totaled into the bottom that's making this skewing.
Because it's also showing our actual surplus, projected surplus is $539,000, and we're not gonna have that either.
No, well, I missed the projected for the transfer
Yeah.
out, so that
So-
lowered it to 250,000, but that seems like a pretty high number. So
What-
I don't know, there's something wrong with the formatting of this report now.
What has been actually our problem in other years is, you know, we've gone many years without a rate increase. And we can't do a rate increase if our surplus is,
If our rate of return is over a certain percentage
Right.
when we do the PSC report at the end of the year.
so part of what I'm working towards with our water department is more of again, getting into our facilities, and just we'll do a water facilities plan next to really determine what our long-term history and needs are going to be in a 10 and 20-year plan. And then, you know, we'll be looking at our rates set where they need to be. And again, that's a time and energy type of thing.
And once we go to start on the new well, that we will be doing a full rate case at that point, because of the debt service that goes along with it.
The new well at well 6 on the
Yes.
west side, yeah. So I think, well, if it's okay with the board, if we get to the bottom and you want to approve the preliminary budget, then if Lisa can figure the water out, we'll bring it back next Monday night at the board meeting to look at it again with you, so. And you obviously get to look at it again at the public hearing as well.
And you'll give us a list of the things that
Yep.
changed, right?
Yep. Mhm.
Well, I'm hoping it's just formatting. I think the numbers that are in here are correct. I just don't know when it's totaling at the end of the report, where it's grabbing those numbers from. I think
Yeah.
it's adding some numbers in twice, maybe, is what I'm thinking is
Yeah.
happening. But I'm not 100% sure.
But we can also talk about the capital
Yep.
water budget, which is on that one sheet. Let me
It's
just.
the last sheet.
The last sheet, here we go, pull it up there. And that just basically gives you both capital and operating improvements that we have planned for 2020. Continue to upgrade our transponders and our meters, Beacon upgrade, which is our new software and reader system, year number 2. I am planning on upgrading some video cameras at the Public Works facility, and as was typical in some of these projects, we do a cost share with the water and sewer since we're all part of it over there. We've just had some issues with people dumping things, and we've seen, we can actually piggyback on the police station server and camera system. So all we're really doing is having to buy cameras, and as long as we can get a signal over there, then we're, you know, it's like Chief says, we have lots of ability to expand that system. Let's see, water share of mobile pump and piping, you'll see we have $20,000 there. We have $20,000 in sewer. We have $30,000 under equipment, so that's $70,000. The pump we're using right now in Netherwood is about $110,000 brand new. We could buy that one today for about $76,000, I believe, $76,000. And I think we're going to hold off on that. We're not going to purchase that today, obviously. Just we've talked about it. We don't have the cash available for that, but I'm going to be looking for a gently used pump that we can procure in 2020. That way we're not paying these rental charges of several $1,000s a week for the pumps.
Jeff, what is the total rental going to be since you had to start pumping?
I don't have the total of that yet, because the problem with it is you're renting it on a weekly or monthly basis. Right now we're renting it on, we just pushed over into a full month rental on this pump. The problem is it's based off an hour meter on that pump. And so even though if you pump 24 hours, that's effectively about a 3-day pumping charge and stuff. So we'll exceed probably $20,000 this year in pumping, in rentals.
So you're comfortable, though, that rather than incur more charges, you don't want to buy a pump?
No, I want to buy a pump.
But now?
We don't
have the cash.
We don't have the cash here.
Yeah, I heard that, but
Yeah.
you can't find it anywhere, huh?
I'm still looking. I did put
Okay.
an email into the auditors to see what they can, if there's something that we can do, but I haven't heard back yet.
Okay, thank you.
We said be careful, if we borrow money for something, we can't pull money out of a fund to buy a pump with it, so we need to be careful with it.
Yeah, it's just that the
agree.
bills are adding up,
They are. They are.
so.
We're continuing to look at it, and if we think we have a really good option, I won't have any problem bringing it back to the board for consideration.
Go ahead, Jenna.
So if we don't have cash for the pump, how are we paying for the rental? Like, not to challenge you, I'm just like,
Well,
I'm thinking.
it'll come out of stormwater.
There's a toll road now through there, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's it.
We're charging for fishing.
Well,
Yeah.
right now it'll go under our storm sewer.
In general fund.
In the general fund, and at the end of the year, this is one of the things that Lisa and Mike and I will obviously have to look at and say, okay, if it may come out of fund balance.
Yeah, that
Kind of
could-
like we did with the snow.
Right.
So it can't come out of that huge water fund?
So
Part of it.
part of the pump's gonna get paid out of, we'll get paid out of water and sewer at some point, but the majority of it will get paid out of the regular storm sewer fund.
Yeah.
Okay.
And for us to take it right now, I mean, contingency's gone, you'd be taking it out of fund balance.
So you can't even do a loan from the $300,000 water fund?
Or the state, what is it?
State trust fund.
Trust fund?
We're looking into all the
Yeah, we're
options,
still
to be
looking at
honest.
some
Yeah.
Okay.
options.
Yeah.
We're,
I think
we're trying to
loud and
figure it
clear,
out.
Yeah, okay.
yeah.
I guess I made my point.
We're looking to purchase a used pump, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Correct.
Have you talked to the place where we're renting it from to
Mhm.
see if they will give us a credit for what we've rented it for? Because I've run into that in the past.
That's where we're at right
Okay.
now. That's where the 75,000 or what, I have to remember the exact cost, but it was in the 70s for the exact pump that we have sitting out there right now.
New or used?
The one that's sitting out there right now, that's used. So my feeling,
$20,000 used.
huh?
$20,000 used.
Well, right, yeah, I mean, brand new, that setup out there is about $110,000. We could buy that pump today. I mean, I have a quote from them for the pump and the suction piping and most of the discharge piping. We have to probably get a little more for, I think it was 70, what did I show you today? Was it 76,000?
I thought it was.
Yeah, 76,000.
Is that a Godwin pump?
That's a Godwin, critically silenced 8-inch diesel
Right.
power,
Dry suction?
turbo dry suction, turbo
Seems high to me.
power. Yeah. It's, honestly, I think it's the critically silenced cabinet that makes it so,
Yeah.
so expensive.
That, am I remembering correctly that previously when we had talked about purchasing a pump, you were hoping to be around like the $55,000?
That was for a 6-inch diameter,
Okay.
non-silence pump, yeah. Yeah, the silence, the only reason, I mean, the silence has the cabinet around it, right now, we're running it 24 hours a day, and we're not in a residential area, but if we were in a residential area, see, something like this pump we would use for more than just pumping storm water. We would use it if we had to bypass, if we had an emergency failure of a sanitary line, we would pump out of one manhole into another manhole in another location, or pump into trucks, or if we had to empty our aeration basins, those big those big basins at the wastewater treatment plant.
Yeah.
Honestly, as we get closer to a lot of these stormwater ponds getting older and needing to be dredged out again, we'll have to empty those. So we'd be using it, and obviously right now we've used it 2 or 3 times this year.
Same topic or different?
Different topic.
Me too.
All right, go ahead.
Okay, all right, this is kind of a weird question, but, I had a constituent ask me, how much it costs us to fluoridate our water.
Fluoride our water? How much it cost us?
Yeah, like, is that an expensive process? I mean, I don't know anything about it, so,
Well,
and
we're
I
buying-
was looking for line item and it's not on there, so
Well,
I
we're
don't-
buying chemical scales for Well 5's facility, and we use those chemical scales, have big vats of the chemical that's in it, and then we have metering pumps that go into those. Cost-wise, it really comes, if you look on the budget, you'll see chemicals, we buy both, the fluoride and the chloride, solutions, for those, and that's what we inject with these small little, they call them just metering or, metering pumps that constantly, whenever the pump's running, it injects it in at a specified rate for the concentration. It's not terribly expensive. I get a couple people every year ask can we not add fluoride? That's a big debate. That's like saying to
think-
plow or not to plow.
I think that might be coming before the board
Yeah,
at some point.
Yeah.
So that's why I'm, part of the
there's
thing, yeah.
there's people out there that tout it's good things, and some people out there that say tout it's bad things, and
There's been some new research that's come out, and that's what's kind of prompting this round
yeah.
of looking at that again.
I haven't,
so.
I haven't seen anything yet that's kind of come through what I would call APWA or on a national level, that communities are changing a lot of stuff yet.
I can send you a link to
Yeah.
what I was looking at that was sent to me by somebody else, but
Sure.
that's a discussion for another day. I just
Yeah.
was wondering about cost.
The annual costs in the budget are 7,000 for all the chemicals, so I'm
Okay.
sure it's a small
Less
fraction
Yeah.
of
than
that.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then, we're upgrading our GIS data collector this year. That's shared between water and sewer. We use those all the time. And then you see obviously Park Street and Janesville Street construction, we have water main, extensions through those that are greatly needed for upgrade. And that's gonna really help our area out there in the Concord, Lexington Drive area. Operating water budget, at $20,000, we did not do any hydrant painting this year. I had $20,000 from last year. I was planning on another $20,000 this year. I'd like to do almost, 350 hydrants if we can. And basically it's a well, I've talked to Corey about this before. I mean, it's, when we can get the right service out here, they actually sand or grit blast the hydrants, prime them, and then paint them. It's a much longer lasting product than, say, sending summer kids out with red paint. And then we're upgrading to GIS online. That'll be kind of our next big step. And then we have our summer water LTE. So that covers our water operating budget.
Okay. All right. Anyone have any further questions on the water budget for Jeff or staff?
I guess,
Go ahead.
for the line item for depreciation on sheet 95, should that be a negative number? Could that be part of?
Yeah, that was what I said at the beginning.
Oh, I'm sorry, I missed
Yeah.
that part.
Yeah, on the first page, yeah, it's supposed to be a negative, so that's why,
The 200,000?
the 165.
I'm talking about the 200,000 depreciation expense.
Well, that's an expense, account code, so it shows as a,
It's already
Positive expense, so that's
Yes.
a negative dollar, okay.
yeah.
Exactly. Positively.
Anyone else? Okay, then I'd entertain a motion to consider or adopt the special funds items 18 through BB.
I already did that one.
We already did that?
Water budget.
Oh, the water budget.
19.
It'd just be the water budget, or you could adopt the water and sewer together, it doesn't really matter.
No, we'll just, we'll do this one now. I'd like a motion to consider the water budget, item 19A.
I'll make that motion to pass the water budget, item 19A.
And a second, please?
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Further discussion or questions on that?
I guess,
Go ahead, Corey.
I would really like to get this reconciled to know, I don't like approving a budget that shows a $350,000 deficit.
Yeah, yeah. I'll have to work with the software people, so it's going to be, it'll depend on how quickly they can get back to me, because I just found this today,
Sure.
so I didn't have
And
time to really do
I'm not,
anything.
I understand that. I guess I'm just saying, can't we vote on this at the next meeting?
If you, we gotta get it in the paper to get it published.
How about if we amend the motion to say that we approve the water budget pending the update?
That-
Yeah,
that
I'll
would be
change the
balanced.
motion to
A
that.
balanced update.
Sure.
Yeah,
Would that be okay with everyone?
yes.
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. On to the sewer budget, Jeff, or whoever.
Okay. Sewer budget. This is, also, we tend to, with the sewer budget too, we've done this every year, we tend to be very strong in our budget of where we predict, under a worst case scenario it could be. And, we continue to do that, but I will say this, our plant and everything continue to operate very effectively and efficiently, with very minor, major issues through the years. I can go through, as far as, you'll see, we do show an admin budget of a minus 93,000, but in 2018, we had a $42,254 surplus. We're actually projecting almost, I think it says $99,000 surplus this year, so I think it's a testimony to at least being able to bring that in well under where we need to be. And our unrestricted sewer account funds are at $3.84 million. For a capital budget, sewer budget, you see the projects that we have coming on. We've already borrowed for this, but for the Vector dump station and septic receiving project, that'll be done this next year. We continue to fund some I&I elimination programs. You'll see those projects come through again this year as well. We're doing the wastewater treatment plant blower upgrade project. This is a significant project. It's a $1.6 million project at the plant. And with our fund balance the way it is, and with our equipment replacement fund is actually overfunded by almost $350,000. We're actually going to be taking, we have to fund that out of $400,000 out of equipment replacement fund, $30,000 from 2019 borrowing, which was for the engineering, and $1,170,000 from fund balance. And that's gonna mean that we can do that project without borrowing beyond the 2019 borrowing. And that's a very important both safety and upgrade project, and we talked about that project a couple of weeks ago when we got the engineers kicked off on approval of that. Let me see the sewer share of mobile pump and piping, as well as the shop video cameras. I've actually added as an equipment piece of item a sewer lateral inspection camera system. That's something that we've rented I'm sorry, here I could. Let me get that pulled up. I'm talking and
That's
mousing
okay.
at the
I
same
just
time.
lost
There we go.
track of- Oh, all right, we're still on that, okay.
Yep. Well, it's actually on
I
the
was in
sewer,
the right place.
on the sewer one, yes.
Got it.
And sewer lateral inspection camera system. This is what we call a push camera, and it's something that we rent on fairly frequent basis. This is just it's not really a professional camera that does like mainline inspections, but it's really for when we're trying to inspect areas. If we're doing construction, if we're doing a break or anything like this, it's something we have and something we can, it's basically a portable unit with a screen on it and a camera, and we can push it into a lateral and kind of get an idea of what's going on. And then you see sewer, the wastewater treatment plant exterior lighting LED conversion. Those are 15 of the light standards out there, the original lights that were part of the upgrade 25 years ago. We're converting those heads to an LED heads, and what's nice about it is Cal has worked with Focus on Energy, and we get a rebate back. It's a couple $100, but it's always nice to, and with this, it'd probably be in the neighborhood of maybe $500 or $600 back. So, from Focus on Energy. And then under the operating sewer budget, as always, everyone, asks about the MMSD payment of $75,000. That's for the Yahara Winds adaptive management. We're very active in that. I'm the treasurer of that. It's a good program. It's still a good program, and it's in actually year three of its official operation, and you've seen the reports come through that, but that's our partner buy-in on that is $75,000. GIS, some upgrades, and then miscellaneous tools we always have for just kind of stuff that comes along that they need.
Anything else, Jeff?
No.
Does that wrap up your overview?
On sewer, yes.
Okay. I guess I'll entertain a motion to approve the water budget,
It should say sewer budget. on
the sewer budget,
19C.
19C.
I'll make that motion.
And could I please have
I'll
a
second it.
second? Any further discussion, questions?
I
Hearing-
guess I have
Go ahead,
one
Corey.
question. For the sewer share of the mobile pump and piping, do you think it's realistic that the sewer is actually gonna use an 8-inch pump? I don't know that they would use that for bypass pumping for sewerage or something
Well,
like
it's
that.
it's a variable speed pump, and I've used I've actually used, I'm trying to remember if it was 8-inch or 6-inch pumps when we had to bypass a pump station one time. I mean, you're right. It's a little
huge,
larger, huh?
It's huge, but
It's a little larger than what you would normally have for a bypass pump.
if you think they might use it, that's fine.
Yeah.
Okay.
Trying to find something that, because I looked into this, and a 6-inch pump is only, say, 1,200 gallons a minute. This 8-inch pump is 2,000 gallons a minute, which is a tremendous difference. When we're looking at what we're doing out on Netherwood, I'd rather go with the 8-inch pump full open and throttle it down.
Okay. Any further discussion on the motion that's on the table right now? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you.
And
You're
then
welcome.
just another reminder that we're looking at holding a special board meeting on Monday, December 9th at 5 PM to review the facilities plan study for the treatment plant with the village engineer.
Very good.
Yep.
Is everybody okay with that? Monday night?
It's a pre-holiday gift from Jeff.
Thanks, Jeff.
Talking about the
Thanks,
treatment
Jeff.
plant.
Do we want to mention the October 11th meeting too?
November 11th.
Or November 11th?
That's on the next agenda.
Okay.
We gotta hold that.
Okay.
to know.
More information to come.
Yeah, I'm not gonna ask any questions about that, so. So, item number 20, and is approval of the 2020 preliminary budget with changes, including proposed tax levy and setting November 18th, 2019 as the public hearing date. Would someone like to make that motion, please?
Okay. I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
Got a motion and a second. Questions, discussion on this item? And again, this is all very, right now, I think what we've just completed is the preliminary
Yep.
budget.
And that's what we published that for the hearing.
Yep, and when we meet again, on this, we'll probably be the staff will be adjusting it as we go along, and each time you adjust it, you'll advise
Yep,
the
we always
board.
tell, yep.
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 So, any further questions or discussion on that? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
So, item 21 is no need for October 16th.
Thank you.
Yeah, good.
Thank you.
Good job, board, good job, staff. You don't have to come back here next Monday.
That'd have been
Wednesday.
Next Wednesday. That would have been Wednesday.
This Wednesday.
You gotta come back Monday, sorry. You always here on a Monday.
We're always here on Monday, yeah. Item number 22, discussion and possible action regarding hiring attorney Patrick Fiedler from Hurley Burrish Attorneys. Engagement for investigative services and statement for release regarding citizens complaint investigation. And we've got a recommended motion here. Approve hiring attorney Fiedler and statement for release regarding citizen compliant. Is that compliant or complaint?
Complaint.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. So,
Typo.
yep. But
Can
it
I
is investigation. Go ahead.
A question about this. Is it normal to have an attorney or a former judge to investigate these things? That's typical?
That is the recommendation from our village attorney.
Okay,
Yep.
Okay,
all right.
all right. Do you have an overview for this, or?
I think the statement is the overview,
Okay,
I'd say.
all right. And I'd entertain a motion for that recommended motion.
I'll make that motion.
And a second?
I'll second it.
Got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Any questions? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Item 23, possible action regarding hiring the Reisling Group. And there's also a recommended motion on this. Approve hiring the Reisling Group.
I'll move, Jerry, approval.
I'll
And
second it.
Got a motion and a second. Further questions or discussion? Go ahead, Corey.
I'll ask your question. How are we paying for this?
Well,
And the previous
that's
one.
what I've been saying. I mean, this is all gonna hit the general fund in 19, and we're probably gonna dip into fund balance. I mean, we may not, depending what happens the rest of the year, but, I mean, on both these cases, both these items are not in the budget. And that's why, you know, looking at doing anything with that pump and everything, we just have to look at the total thing happening and all hitting 19, so.
Yeah.
It's,
I guess I see on the Riesling Group one, it has a not to exceed amount. Do we have that in the
Nope.
Burrish one?
Nope.
Do we want to set that?
No.
Okay. All right.
that's what I've been trying to say, that, right now, when you look at the general fund, we're showing a balance in the projection, but I mean, we're gonna spend a lot of money on a lot of things the rest of the year, and we could have a bad snow plowing season. And so, again, this is why we may end up having to use 2020, at the end of 2020, to replenish the fund balance that we may touch in 19.
Mhm.
I feel like maybe with your luck with rain, you should not mention the bad snow plowing season.
Well, I made a
As long as
list
it's
of.
snow tonight now, isn't it?
Yeah, that's true, like yeah, that's right, I did jinx ourselves on Lake Farm. All right, shut up.
Yeah,
Just
don't,
saying,
I'll be
just,
quiet,
you
I'll be
know,
quiet.
don't say any more, Mike.
Sorry.
Come on.
Let somebody else
Maybe
get
Jeff's
very
wish of
offended.
using no salt is going to come true. We just won't have money for it.
You never know.
Maybe.
Any further discussion on that? Candy, did we
We need to,
Did we vote on that?
We need to vote.
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Item 24, possible action regarding surplus election automark machines. And the recommended motion is to approve declaring election machines as surplus. Someone please bring that motion forward.
Go ahead.
You do this.
Okay, I'll make that motion.
And a
I'll
second.
second it.
Got a motion and a second. Further questions or discussion on this? I assume these are outdated machines that.
Andy's saying yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
So where do you take them?
We're actually, the county is allowing us to bring them to the Dane County Alliant Energy Center, where ES&S, which is the software company, is gonna collect them all there.
Do we get any money?
Yeah.
We actually did get
$600
$600 for
Yeah.
Trade-in.
3, yep.
Yep.
All right. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries.
I could auction a few other buildings in the village if you want.
Yeah, well, it depends how bad the budget is this year.
Save your old collection machines.
Okay, a motion for adjournment, please.
I'll move to adjourn.
Second?
thank you for leading the meeting, Jerry.
Oh, no problem. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
We are adjourned.
Thank you, everyone. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Good budget.